They want to be adventurous.
That's true. That's true. All right. Good evening, everybody. Happy Veterans Day to you all. It is West Ham Wednesday night. It's our Wednesday night show where we talk about what's going on with West Ham. We'll get to our little spiel in a minute here, but first, I want to say Happy Veterans Day to everybody. I want to say Happy Veterans Day, especially to my friend here on the screen right below me, to Selly.
Thank you.
Who has just it's been about 3-4 months that you've been out of the Air Force. Is that right?
Yeah, July 2nd.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's been a little longer than that, but not very long. So happy Veterans Day to you, Selly.
Thank you.
And I want to say, obviously, that we appreciate your service, right? And that we thank you for serving our country, for doing what I wouldn't do and serving our country, I also want to say today, if you're watching, and I don't know if anybody's watching yet, but if you're watching in the US or UK or anywhere you are, today's as good a day as any to contact your congressperson, your member of parliament, and just say that our veterans deserve better. We have a real crisis with veterans in this country. We have a crisis with veterans, and I'm not trying to bring you down, but I'm telling you the truth. We have a crisis with veteran suicides. We have a crisis with mental health, with health care for veterans, with housing for veterans. Nobody in America should ever be homeless, but that's especially true for our veterans. And so, it's not a bad time to contact, whoever is your representative in Congress and say, we need to do better. We need better health care, better mental health care, better housing, better everything, And also, maybe today's not a bad day to maybe donate to a veterans charity. I don't know if you have a favorite one. We have some in New England here. We have a couple of homes in New England. There's one in Boston. I don't know, Shelly, do you have a favorite veterans charity that you could think of off the top of your head? I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
no, yeah, it's called the Disabled American Veterans, the DAV. If you go to dav.org/donate, it has 3 different prompts for prices. It's 35, 60, and 100.
Okay.
And the DAV pretty much helps veterans who and then in their line of service got injured or just retired or separated now, and it helps them get in contact with services that they may need, help them get jobs. I think it might help with housing. I'm not 100% sure with that, but that would be a good one to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. It's nice to thank everybody. It's an appropriate thing to do, but I think we should also take this day and this week and do more. We should really do more every day, but this is as good a day as any to be thoughtful about that. So anyway, thank you for listening to all that. Anybody who's listening at the moment or who's watching later on. Second thing I want to say very quickly, this is my own thing just for me. All right. Congratulations to my lady Frogs, TC Horned Frogs women's soccer team. The TC Horned Frogs women's soccer team finished an unbeaten season. They drew their first match and they won all the rest. And they won the Big 12 championship. They're not going to have an NCAA tournament this year to go to because of COVID, but I think they're going to finish something like number 3 in the country. And they've had a fantastic season. I'm extremely proud of them. Very, very proud of them. They're a great group. And women's sports at TCU have come a long, long way since I was there in the mid 90s. So super proud of them, super happy for them. And I don't want to let the opportunity go away to mention them. Also, our own West Ham women's team had a great win this weekend over Birmingham, I believe it was. They were 1-0 down. They came back and won 2-1. So good win for them. And they also were off to a good start in the Continental Cup. So really good for them. And I think Allie and Reese are doing their show still at some point. They do it like daytime, US time. So be on the lookout for that. And other than that, you know what to do. As always, like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Check out our website, AmericanHammers.net. Let us know if you want to be on the show. Let us know if you want to buy stuff or buy stuff for you. Don't have to let us know. Buy stuff from us and not from Gold, Silver, and Brady. Buy stuff from us. Keep us running. Keep us going. Right? You can get all kinds of
John's
cool
beers
merchandise.
too.
Can you sell those? Can you sell those on the website, John? Do you think is that legal?
Not,
Can you get that
not
done?
legally, no. But send me a DM.
Oh, really? Okay. Send him a DM. You got his Twitter address right there. Send him a DM. There you go. Yeah, it's a good idea. So you guys know what to do. Everybody here has probably seen the show before. You guys all know what to do. So anyway, tonight it's 2 of my favorite people. All right, 2 of my best West Ham friends. People whose opinions on West Ham I really trust, people I love talking to. It's just the 3 of us. All right, so hang out with us. If you're in the chat room and you're super hot to come on and say something, then let us know, and we might just let you on the show. We do that a lot. So anyway, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love, It's John.
Good evening. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And from Boulder. Are you on campus, Silly? Do you live on campus? Or are you
No, technically, I live in Broomfield, which is about 10 minutes away from Boulder.
Okay. So from Broomfield, Colorado, then, the Rocky Mountain High man himself, our friend Selly. How's it going, Selly?
Yeah, pretty good. It's been a pretty busy day. It's not 7 o'clock. Definitely snuck up on me, but definitely happy to be here.
Yeah, I just got my boys to bed. Well, I mean, I know one of them's asleep. I think the other one's headed that way. So, and it looks as though we have a birthday. What?
For Ray. Yeah, happy
Ray?
birthday, Ray.
It's Ray's birthday. Well, all right,
Ray.
Ray. Happy birthday, my friend. That's great. That's awesome. Hope you
I
had a
already
good
wished
one.
him a happy birthday about a week ago. Which day is his actual birthday?
It's the whole month.
It's the whole month. Yeah. Well, Ray took a while to come out, so he has like a 3 or 4 day birthday span. You know, his poor mama. It was a real ordeal from what I understand. But yeah. Anyway, happy birthday to Ray. Glad you're here, and I see a bunch of people in the chat room. Glad you're all here. Listen, we have an international break this week, which always sucks, but I mean, it's been a pretty good week for West Ham, right? If you don't count the first 93 minutes of the Fulham match, the last 5 minutes of injury time were pretty good, pretty exciting. The Lookman penalty for me, the failed Panenka, whatever that was he was trying to do. He says, Ray's birthday's tomorrow. Well, then I retract all my happy birthdays, Ray. You know, I don't want to jinx you. That's the thing. I want to jinx you. I actually have a friend who will not wish a happy birthday until the person's actual birthday.
No, it's Ray's birthday where he lives.
Okay. Then I could do it. Oh, that's true. You're right. It's 5 hours ahead. Okay. I re-enter my happy birthday to you. I'm going to take not give you an extra one, just give me the one I had before, putting it back where it was. All right. So happy birthday, Ray. The Lookman penalty for me will go down in West Ham lore as one of the great moments in the history of the club. The two things I want to know is what was he thinking, and two, what did Balbuena say to him afterwards? I mean, Duke, what do you guys think? That could relegate them. I mean, I'm kind of not joking. I know it's just a point that they were trying to get, but they're going to struggle this season. That could really come back to haunt them. I mean, any speculation as to what you think Balbuena went over and said to him? Did he say, "Come on, you Irons"? Probably not.
No, probably just tell him to keep his head up. Nobody likes to miss a penalty in any situation, but especially when it's able to get a point at the end, a point that Fulham probably would have deservedly earned. But I mean, I don't know. In that situation, I don't know how many penalties he's taken this year or in the past, but he looked confident until his foot hit the ball. And then after that, like when your keeper has enough time to go in one direction and come back and still get the ball, like you messed up. And he's never going to live that down because it's going to be on a blooper reel for the rest of the year.
That one is a career-defining moment. It's a career-defining moment. I hate to say it. There's some guys, it's not fair, but they're just known for something. I mean, Ernest Biner was a running back for the Cleveland Browns in the 80s. He was a really good player. Later won a Super Bowl with the Redskins, actually. Great player. But he fumbled in the AFC Championship game against Denver in 1988.
Right after the drive, too. Back-to-back years of pain.
Exactly. He's walking into the end zone and he just fumbles.
Yeah.
And Denver recovers and Denver ends up winning the game. And if you mention Ernest Biner, you don't hear people talk about, he was a great running back or he won a Super Bowl in Washington. He had actually a good season. No, it's the fumble. So the Lookman penalty, it's the penalty. I don't know, John. What do you think Balbuena said in his Paraguayan accent?
It looked like he was consoling him. I mean, he obviously was trying to cheer him up a little bit, but I had two things to say on the penalty. And first is, how lucky are we?
So lucky.
Good penalties. Well, for how lucky are we to win that? How lucky are we to have good penalty takers at West Ham for at least about the last 20, 30 years? I mean, that's something that you don't really have to worry about. I would have slated one of our players if they had gone up and done that, and call me a little bit old school on some of that. I hate it. I hate all the new age shit when it comes to penalties. I hate the little hop, skip, and jump that Bruno Fernandes does.
Put your foot through the ball.
Exactly. Just letter the friggin' thing. Aim for the corner. Aim for the triangle in the corner. Stick it there. Simple as that. You don't need anything else. You don't need to chip the ball. You don't need to do cartwheels on the run up. You don't need to do that little speedy run thing and then take your slow 3-step. You take 3 or 4 steps back from the ball and just pick the corner and get it to the corner. It's high percentages. Why even try and do anything outside of that is beyond me. So I would have played him if he was one of our players. I slate him as one of their players. What are you thinking? Last minute of the game.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, I don't want to go back into that changing room with Scott Parker as my manager after I've taken that penalty.
Especially not against his older team, too.
Especially against his old team, and he needed and wanted a result there. I guarantee you, Scott Parker tore that guy's skin off when they got into that changing room. I promise you he did. I felt as though it was one of those things where he decided he was going to do the Panenka, okay? You know what I mean? The cheeky little chip, the Panenka. And it's like he got his foot on the backswing and he went, no, actually, I don't want to. And it was too late. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like he had a second thought right about here. And then when he struck it, it just
went. See Fabianski have a go at him.
Fabianski
pointed at him afterwards saying, "You're not doing me, mate." I mean, that's disrespectful to a keeper, too.
It's disrespectful to a keeper.
He pointed at him a few times.
Of course it is. Fabianski could have had a lung dart and a couple of belts of whiskey. Fabianski had a long time standing there waiting for that ball to come to him. So yeah, it was just Julian dicks that thing into the net. You know what I mean? Just blast it. The physics of a penalty, I mean, I'm not a physicist or anything, but it's such that if you kick the ball hard enough, a keeper is not going to be able to stop it. It goes too fast. It just goes too fast. Even if he makes the dive, in many cases, it's going to go off his hand or off his arm. He can't get there. Most missed penalties are just missed over, off the post, whatever. So anyway, I don't know why I did it. I can't either, by the way. I've been playing FIFA with my boys a little bit, and every time I get a penalty, I'm like, I can't get that thing down where you point it and make it have the right, emphasis and all that. Anyway, it's a mess. So let's talk a little bit about Benrahma, everybody's favorite shiny new toy. Tell me what you think about his performance. Obviously very good, right? Except he gave away a penalty in the last minute of the game. And what are we saying about him today if Lookman just put through the ball and we end up with a point in a situation like that?
I don't think you necessarily if that penalty goes through, I don't think you really have any negative words towards Benrahma because as a whole, like I said, it was a point that Fulham deserved to get. Yeah, but his impact on the offensive side of the ball greatly overshone what he did defensively. He came onto the ball and he was a direct contributor twice to the goal that we scored at the end of the game. With getting that ball into or across field, and then again, seeing Souček pretty much by himself behind the line. So I think and not just that, but he had some pace, had a little bit of creativity. Couldn't display too much of it because he didn't have a lot of opportunity, but he showed why he probably should start. And again, he probably takes over for Fornals just because, maybe Fornals had a poor game. I don't even know if poor is the right word, but Benrahma just looked to be better.
He's a winger. Fornals isn't a winger. I mean,
yeah, that's true. It would be nice to play Fornals in position, but that's not what we do at West Ham.
We don't, right? We're not going to do that. Yeah. Well, there's no way.
I think it's deserved to give him a run out. I don't think that he will start in the next game. I'll just be honest. But I do think that he'll get another substitution, about 20 some odd minutes. It was kind of funny, for him. You think that Moyes is bringing somebody on at the right time, and he's sitting there on the side for 5-6 minutes because the ball just hasn't gone out of play yet, which was kind of funny. But no, he looked good to me.
Did you think it was a penalty?
No, but
I kind of did. I kind of did, to be honest. John, what's your take on Benrahma? And again, what are we saying about him if Lookman just puts his foot through the ball?
Yeah, soft penalty, really, really soft. But don't poke your foot in the box like that. I mean, you can't get away with that these days. So, silly boy, really, on that one. But there's no doubt he had an effect on the game when he came in. He had those 2 shots in succession. He set up Souček's goal. It's interesting that twice now him and Lanzini have both come on at the same time, but I kind of get the impression that he may be a little bit ahead of Lanzini in the pecking order if you need somebody to come in and change a game right now. Granted, that's only off of 2 appearances there, but an immediate contribution and contributions in the right area of the pitch, because I don't think Lanzini is in and around the box nearly enough for what he should be in the kind of skill level that he has. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. Hopefully, that's a good problem to have, is seeing who out of those 2 can come in and change games and be that go-to guy to come off the bench and mix stuff up.
Are you starting Benrahma? So Selly said he's starting Benrahma at this point in place of Fornals. I think, Selly, right? That's what you were saying? I don't want to.
I mean, I would, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet.
No, I don't either. But so, John, who are you putting out there on the left? Fornals or Benrahma?
Fornals
for Sheffield United.
He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 6 games for Fornals. I'm sticking with him. His work rate is second to none, and on the defensive side of the ball, we get to see what Benrahma can do. So I think we're going to have to scrap through a lot of these games as well against some of the lesser teams, because they're already really looking for points because they're in trouble. Fulham, Sheffield United aren't doing well compared to last season. We're going to have to see these teams out to about 60, 70 minutes and just keep it close, and then hopefully bring on some impact subs and just nick a winner, because I don't see us blowing anybody away, even though we did really well against Leicester and Wolves. Some of these games against the lower teams where we're going to have to put the emphasis on attacking, where we're going to have the majority of the ball and we're not going to be hitting teams on the break.
We don't like that.
Yeah, hopefully 1 or 2-0 scrappy wins, and I'll take that all day. That's fine.
I'll take what happened on Saturday all day, even with the bizarre way it finished. I think you're right. We don't like to be on the attacking side. We like to hit on the break. We like to be defensive. It's worked really well, so far this season. But as you said, Sheffield United are not going to come after us. Fulham didn't come after us. I don't know, Burnley, some of these other clubs that are struggling are not going to come after us. So, there's going to be some tense stuff. There's no way to get. I mean, you're really not finding a way to get Fornals and Benrahma on the pitch at the same time, are we? I don't see how that happens in our system.
No, I think you definitely can. If we're setting up a 1 striker, you set up 3 behind him, put Fornals in the middle, Bowen on the right, and Benrahma on the left, and then behind that you put you have Souček and Rice, and then you set up your back 4 however you want to set it up. No, I know that's not necessarily how we've been playing, and it might throw things off, but unless you go, maybe you could do a 4-4-2. I think you still have Fornals in the middle, Bowen and Benrahma on the wings, and then to come up with Fornals, you might even be able to bring Souček up at that point, unless you do 2 up top, and up top when Antonio gets healthy, you can have him up there. But there's definitely ways to play around with it. I think for the time being, it's a good problem to have. Yeah. Once the squad is full. But no, I think you definitely could put them on there together.
Are you terrified of a back 4 though instead of a back 5? I mean, I'm a little terrified because Cresswell's been so good in this 5 at the back system as a third center back. The thought of having him there as left back is a little scary to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think him and Masuaku definitely played well off of each other, and they've complemented each other really well. And you still get that added service that Cresswell provides, both on free kicks and just through his vision and passing. But then for the people that can get around him, you have Masuaku right there. You have Ogbonna, fingers crossed if he's good, to come on. But I mean, it's worked well. Like I said, you could tinker around with it. I think maybe in the current formation, you might take Masuaku off and put Benrahma in, which could still mess with that because Masuaku is good going back. But other than that, I don't know who else you would take off.
That's a very attacking setup, really, in that sense. But I kind of thought about that too. What do you think, John? Is it worth trying to get these guys to wedge them all onto the pitch at the same time, or?
Well, I mean, maybe not that position or personnel specifically, but we need to have a plan B. I mean, we're going to need to have a different formation that we can go to and different setup that we can go to, whether it's through injuries or needed to change a game plan,
right?
Because we're losing or something of that nature. But no matter what we do, you can't change anything without impacting that back five that we currently have, because we've shoehorned 2 half left backs to make 1 complete left back. There's 2 of them are doing the responsibilities of 1 very,
because we didn't buy a left back, because we didn't go get a left back in the summer. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, Soufal seems like he's pretty competent down the right-hand side. You don't have to worry about him when it comes to attacking or defending or pace or reading the game. Yeah. But Cresswell and Masuaku both have their strong points, and they complement each other in that way when they're on the same when they're on the pitch together. But you take one of them out of the equation, then suddenly you're kind of missing a left back, or you've weakened the left hand side. So I don't know how to do it without, I don't know how you compensate for it if you move away from that back five, or you're going to have somebody that has the work rate of Masuaku to get up and down, because I think you're not replacing Cresswell because he's the best defensively.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe the only thing that you can do with that back four with the back five to put into a back four is wait until Johnson gets back healthy and have him on the right side, and you can bring Koufal to the left. Even though I guess technically that'll be out of his position, but I mean it's still a wing back-ish spot that he's used to doing. Because that way you have somebody who that is their position. Not saying that that's not Cresswell's, but Cresswell, he isn't the guy for every team, if that makes sense. And not just him, but I think with the formation, I don't know if we're the team that has the luxury of putting out the same formation week in and week out, like the bigger clubs or the more successful clubs. I think we have to adapt to who we're playing. If we know we're going to go up against somebody more defensive, then we have to set up more attacking. You don't want to put two immovable objects on the same pitch, because then
we saw that on Saturday, right? I mean,
because then you're just going to get those slug them out games. Which, I mean, to be fair, I was expecting that. I wasn't expecting 1-0, but I was expecting a pretty ugly and sloppy game. But and I mean, it is unfortunate because with the positions that we have people playing, Fornals does seem to be the one that would come out. But like John said, I mean, he right now has one of the best work rates, if not the best work rate right now on the team.
And he's producing results. He's scoring.
Exactly. And he's got, high energy guy. You're going to get everything out of him every game.
Yep.
But, since we don't play him in position, he's going to be the guy that ends up coming out.
Yeah, and I didn't actually know this happened. I'll go back to this comment here that Moyes told Benrahma to get game time in the internationals. I was not aware of that. Did you guys know about this? I didn't know that happened.
I think that maybe there was a thing on the West Ham page the other day where they had a quick exchange when Benrahma was leaving after the match or whatever. So I don't know how much I would read into that situation. He told him, be ready.
Yeah,
I think he would probably say that to any player going off, I would think. But if it's something else, then I'm open to looking at it. But if it was that, it seemed pretty normal, kind of inspirational managerial talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, especially because you would think Benrahma already starts for Algeria, is it?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's probably going to get game time regardless.
Oh, he will.
I think he starts for Sally. You ain't been in the comments section of the West Ham posts on match day. It's all Algerians in there at the minute.
Oh, really?
Oh, is that right?
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know that.
They all love Benrahma, yeah.
That's just like what happened when Chicharito came here.
I
mean, the wave of Mexican fans is pretty sweet to see.
That was fantastic to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Algeria. I mean, I lived in France for a while, so, I knew some people from Algeria. Algeria's cool. I mean, Algerians are cool. So I'm happy we have another one, a better one this time, I think. And I'm glad to see their fans coming to West Ham. That's good for us, I think. I feel a little spoiled for choice. We have 2 really capable players who can play on that left side now. Curious as to what you guys think. It's very early, all right, and a lot can change over the course of a season or several seasons, but everybody freaked out, and I freaked out big time when we sold Grady Diangana. So far, and we went and paid more for what looked like the same player. Benrahma looks, in a very tiny sample, he looks better so far. Do you guys have any? Do you think we actually made a good deal? Did Sullivan stumble into doing something right for once? Do what?
Look what Grady did in the preseason. Does Benrahma look better? Why does he look better?
Well, I mean, Grady, I thought from what I saw of him for West Brom last match they played, whoever that was, he wasn't great. Plus, and he was great in the preseason, I agree. Plus, remember before he went on loan to West Brom, he was kind of mediocre for us for the most part. Now, I thought his loan spell he improved a lot, right, in the championship. But I mean, do you think it's possible that we've gotten the better of the two players?
I think it's too early to tell. Especially with the production that Diangana was having in the preseason. Like you said, he was playing really well. No, I don't know if that was just because of competition or what the case may be, but at the same time, you could see that he, had really good link-up play with Haller, and he was able to hold his own out there on the wing.
He was the key that unlocked Haller, I think. Yeah.
100%. I mean, Haller said he was looking forward to to doing that with him, and then buy Diangana, but I don't know yet.
Sally got ahead of me on a talking point, so I was also going to say it's probably too early to tell, but just to be outrageous, and if we ever want to make any money like Arsenal Fan TV, we need to be outrageous, right? So.
I can't yet. They make a huge amount of money, by the way. Did you guys see that thing I sent you?
Yeah.
There is so for everybody who doesn't know. Sorry, John. I'll let you get back to this in a minute. For everybody who doesn't know, there was an estimate on some quasi sports business website, which may or may not be credible. I'm not sure. That suggested that Arsenal Fan TV makes something like $300,000 a month. I think it's £250,000 a month. A month? That's real money. I mean, that's an enormous amount of money. So I guess we'll have to be a bunch of morons. And if maybe we did that, we would do better financially. But anyway, so start us out, John. Say something outrageous.
Outrageous. So what would you rather, a £30 million winger or a £45 million striker? Because with Grady Diangana, we had a £45 million striker. So
you think so?
That's about as outrageous as I could get. Not in Grady, in Haller, like Selly said.
Like you
said. So gotcha. We may have lost Grady, but with him we probably lost a little bit of Haller as well. Those two seemed like they were actually clicking there in the preseason. So
that's not outrageous at all. That makes total sense because Haller has not. The only time he's really looked effective for us consistently was in the preseason. I know it's preseason, but still was with Diangana playing with him. Last season we know he kind of struggled. He scored some decent goals, but he struggled for a record signing. This season, I still think he's struggling. I know he played harder on Saturday, but I still didn't think he looked, fantastic. You're right. We may have sort of nullified our record signing. That's a valid point.
Well, one thing I noticed in this game too, because I remember last week we were talking about getting Haller's service. One thing I noticed in this game was that our attacking players, we were pushing the ball up. You had a lot of people in the box, so it wasn't specifically just Haller, which I think was huge, because it doesn't put a lot of pressure on him, and it also helps him become a greater option. Now, I think when Benrahma, when he eventually does start and you have him on one side and Bowen on the other, and you have that speed coming down the side, I think it's a good attacking threat because with Bowen, you have somebody who has pace and somebody who is, I think as a winger, he's more goal oriented than he is distribution oriented. But I think with Benrahma, he'll look to set up. And if it's not there, then he could take it on himself.
I was happy he got his head up, weren't you, for that assist that he got? He got his head up and he wasn't selfish. He passed it off to somebody who was in a better position.
I'll tell you what else I loved about it is watch where he is when that whole play starts. He's pretty far up the pitch. Like he makes a run, you don't see it. I can't. I'm not going to show it.
You can see it.
Yeah, we'll get shut. We'll get shut down again if I show it. You know how that goes, because we don't have the rights to it. But I think it's Balbuena puts the ball in to begin with, and but you see Benrahma. I mean, he's up near the center line, and by the time the ball comes in from Kufal, he's there to make the assist. He makes a run. Like we have so many players, or have had so many players over the years who wouldn't do that. Who just gonna stand.
I mean, he's the one that got the ball across to Kufal in the first place, right. And then he got in position and got the ball back.
He gets the ball across to Kufal, and then he takes off. And guess where he is when the ball comes in? He's in the box. He's in the box. How many times have we watched our midfielders and even our strikers not bother to do that? Mm-hmm. They're just hanging out, 20 yards back up the pitch, just guess we're going to see what happens. Best seat in the house. No, he makes he puts the ball in, then he makes a run. That's what you're supposed to do. That's one of the things that I really liked is it's not complicated, but we've had a lot of guys who wouldn't do that.
Even to kind of back off of what, or to piggyback, if you will, off of what John said, with him taking his time looking up and getting the ball in, he got it up to the right player. He didn't try to squeeze it into Haller. Right. Because Haller is a striker, he saw that Souček was setting himself up a few feet behind the defender, and he passed it across, and all he had to do was just kind of tap it in, and the rest is history. But I think that goes a long way too, is to be able to dissect that situation, with just getting the ball down, looking up, and okay, I see you, and getting it in, and then just so everybody knows, Haller did celebrate that goal too.
No, he did. Listen, let's talk about him for a minute, okay? I actually thought he was much better on Saturday. I thought his effort was stronger. I thought he really did legitimately not get the service he needed in this case. I really don't fault him for not scoring or not looking more like scoring. This was one of those matches where it really did look as though he just wasn't fitting into the system. But I thought he cared on Saturday in a way that I'm not sure he always has in the past. Did you guys see anything different from him that you didn't see before, or did he look the way he's always looked to you?
Yeah, I think he put himself about. I mean, he's not going to be as mobile and as present as an Antonio. You can't play the ball in front of him. He hit the bar with his head. He was kind of a part of the goal at the end there, being a bit of a foil, if you will.
Sure. And,
he was always in and around it. He didn't get subbed off like he did the week before, so I think Moore probably saw something as well.
Yeah. I do too. What did you think, Sully?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he definitely, I haven't really said anything negative about him this year, but I do think he had more of a presence in this game, especially with that header so close to the beginning of it. He's always going to be a threat to score on a corner or a well-positioned free kick. You put something on the side, like if you remember the game winner at the last game with the ball in, where Payet was set up and then Reed scored it. That's another area where he's kind of textbook able to be. But I do think that one thing that I do like is that he does get frustrated when he doesn't get the service, because I think it shows that he wants to be able to display his ability and do what he knows that he can do. I don't think that it's pouting. I know that people can kind of bag on him for it, because if you're not scoring and then it looks as if you're pouting, then it's not okay. But I mean, Arnautovic did the same thing, and Arnautovic led the team in goals.
Sure did.
Granted, there were only 10 or 13 of them, but at the same time, when he wasn't getting service that he thought somebody should play into him, he was mad, as most strikers would be.
No, he was, and yeah, I mean, hey Danny, how you doing? Good to see you. Danny's been run ragged lately by his job. I think he keeps getting humped by a dog. You guys see that? If you're friends with Danny on Facebook, you can see that Danny drives for I don't know if he wants me to mention it, but it's one of the big delivery companies, right? And
I'm not sure that's the one thing he didn't want you to mention, Lee.
Well, he put it on Facebook. It couldn't be all that private, okay? It couldn't be all that private. So every time he goes to this one house, this looks like a little bulldog or something?
Yeah, a little bulldog.
Bulldog comes up and humps his leg. Hey, man, when you got it, you got it. You know what can you say? I mean, so you take it as a compliment, I suppose. Anyway, glad you're here. Glad you're watching, Danny. Yeah, now I almost forgot what we were talking about. Yeah, I again, effort-wise, I thought he was there. And what you were saying, Sally, about how he gets frustrated, I think it's good too. I mean, he wasn't pouty to me. there's a difference between being pouty and being frustrated. When you're pouting, you're walking around like, I don't really care about this. I'm not going to put any effort into this. That's not what I got from him. I got from him more of a sense of like, I'm working here. You know what I mean? And the ball's not coming to him. I'm not getting what I need. And that's okay for him to feel that way. That's a good reaction for him to have. We have, such a long break until the next game that if we're here again in a week, we're going to be talking about the same thing. But what do you do for Sheffield United? Same starting 11? Do you put him up front again? I mean, do you maybe start Benrahma thinking that he's going to be a little more of the key to unlock him? Or I don't know. What's your thought? Anybody?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting because, you have an extra week for Antonio to heal. So is Antonio going to come back? But I think it's going to be really
they're talking about it being on the bench. Sorry, Sally. They're talking about it being on the bench, which means, you know what I mean? It doesn't sound super positive. So
I think it'll be interesting to see what Haller does tomorrow with the Ivory Coast.
Yes. All of a sudden he's Ivorian. Who knew? I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I think it's on his mom's side, I believe.
I think it is, yeah. But I guess he's never played for France at the senior level, so he can play for Ivory Coast.
Yeah, I don't think he's breaking into that squad now.
No, I don't think so either.
No. Yeah, it's no dig to him. It's just France is just really good.
I know they lost today, but they're still the best team in the world generally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and it's not to say that the Ivory Coast is bad. The Ivory Coast is, they got a lot of studs on that team. Yeah. But no, I mean, hopefully he plays. I don't know if he's starting or not. I don't think we'll know until the game. But excuse me, hopefully he plays and hopefully he's able to do something. I mean, they're playing. Where are they playing tomorrow?
I was just looking that up because I can't remember.
I'll have it up in a second here.
Côte d'Ivoire. Oh, they're playing Madagascar.
Yeah, Madagascar. So, you would like to think that he could get something turned out in that game.
All Penguins. The Madagascar team is all Penguins.
Yeah.
I don't know if
yeah. No, that's funny.
Just little guys in black and white suits running around out there.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think you have – I think you might have to change it up, maybe just one or two players because well, I don't know. It's hard to say because we had opportunities in the first half. We just couldn't take them.
Yeah.
But I think I want something that's more attacking because Sheffield can do what Fulham did and just do it better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because they've had a really rough start to the season, but I don't think by any means they're a bad team.
I don't think they are either. I don't think they're a bad team either. I think they're poised to get better. I think Fulham are poised to get better. I'm not convinced that Fulham will go down, believe it or not. They will be in the relegation battle all season. I believe that. I don't think they're nailed on to go down the way everybody thought they were after the first 3 or 4 games. And Sheffield United is the same way. I can see them. The quality they had last season, I don't think it's gone away. They're off to a rough start for whatever reason. Just like Villa are almost at the top of the league after barely staying up.
Yeah.
Stuff's gonna settle the way it always does.
Right.
I don't know. What would you, John, do with our against Sheffield United with our attack?
Well, first, I think Sheffield United are on second season syndrome.
Could be. Yep.
Yeah.
Had a flyer their first year back. There all seems to be one, doesn't there? They have a flyer first year and second year, they drop right off. I think that's them, which means probably the confidence and the morale is gone from that changing room. So if there's a team I want Haller to play and get some goals and start building his own confidence, I think now's the time. So I keep him in there. Hopefully he can bag a few goals while he's away on international duty. That'll do him the world of good. But why not? Why not stick him up there? Antonio, even if he is back, don't rush him back. We're going to need him. We don't have enough.
I feel the same way. I would not. I mean, I think it's Villa after Sheffield United, if I'm not mistaken. I think we have Villa after that, and that could be a massive game, believe it or not, because they look fantastic right now. They're literally, I believe, they're poised to go top of the league. I think they have a game in hand on whoever's Liverpool or whoever's top right now. I haven't really looked at
Southampton was top for a day, and apparently it was the first time ever in the Premier League that they were top of the table for a day.
That is true. You're right. That is true. And Villa have played 7 games. They're on 15 points. So yes, they have a goal differential, the same goal differential as Leicester. So if they win, I don't know what the schedule is, but if they won their next game, they would actually be top of the table. They'd be top of the table 8 games in. So,
Lee, how do you feel about Trezeguet? Because personally hate the fact that he's named after somebody else called Trezeguet without having like a like an addition to that name, like the second or.
I think it's totally unacceptable that he took that name. I mean, no, seriously. As a player, I mean, I don't know. He seems like a good player. I don't know if I want to evaluate him as a player. I hate the fact that he took the name of a guy who, it's not. I mean, David Trezeguet was a superstar like 20 years ago. We're not talking about 50 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he was winning. I don't know if he was on the 98 team, but I know he was on the Euro 2000 team because he scored the match winner in extra time. He scored the game winner. I think it's terrible that he took that name off of somebody who's like my age, basically, maybe even younger. Trezeguet might be younger. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't know why he would do that. And I'm with you. I think it was arrogant.
In fairness to him, I think it was one of his coaches told him that he played like Trezeguet, and it just kind of stuck as a nickname.
So call him Little Trezeguet, Little Trez or something. You know what I
mean? He's not the original, man. Like Trezeguet was a beast.
Trezeguet was a monster and a great player and a champion, and I kind of liked him, to be honest. So, I wouldn't have done that. Call him Petit Trez or whatever. Where is it's weird. It's weird to me. It's weird to me. He's Egyptian, is that right?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
He's not even French. Trezeguet, of course, was actually from Argentina, but he played for France, but he grew up in Argentina. but an Egyptian guy named I just, his name is Mohammed Ahmed Ibrahim Hassan, and there might be a lot of guys from Egypt named that. It seems possible. Those sound like pretty common Egyptian names. But yeah, I wouldn't have taken it after somebody else's name. I think it's tacky. Little Trez is a great name. That's a fantastic name.
Could you imagine Antonio registering his name as Alan Shearer?
Right. That's exactly what it is. And Alan Shearer predates David Trezeguet, right? I mean, it would literally be like Sebastian Haller saying, "I'm Thierry Henry now." That's my new name. I'm Thierry Henry. So you guys can call me Thierry. You guys can call me Henry, but that's who I am. I'm Thierry Henry. Or if there was yet another Ronaldo,
right.
I'm going to be Ronaldo, like all the other Ronaldos. No, it's tacky. It's tacky, and I hold it against him. I do. Yeah, I do. I hold it against him. Fully hold it against him.
You're as petty about it as I am.
By the way, David Trezeguet is 43. David Trezeguet. He's 43. I'm 40. He's younger than I'm 46. He's younger than I am. No, I'm telling you, there is not a marketing writer in this country who has yet taken my name as a tribute to me. All right. I find that to be a huge insult. Nor is there a journalist for a small, obscure technology trade magazine, right, who ever read any of the stuff I wrote for PC Week or Redmond Channel Partner and said, I'm going to call myself Lee Pender. If I see a Lee Pender one of these days, like on a byline for an obscure trade magazine, then I'll know I've really made it. But until then, I'm sure the Air Force is probably full of guys named Pierre Celestin because you feel like they can have the name now.
Right.
And every PR person who contacts me is called John Anthony, obviously. So, or whatever your actual last name is. I can't remember. But anyway, John Anthony sounds better. Wait a minute. This is.
You've seen the chat.
Are you Ryan Reynolds acting like Jim Morrison?
Okay, the Jim Morrison part is an insult to me because I think that guy was such a fraud. But Ryan Reynolds, that's cool. I'll take that. That's cool. Jim Morrison, though, I mean, he can't. His beard was he had nothing on me, nothing. And besides, he died when he was like 29 or something like that. Screw him, Jim Morrison. Total fraud. Not a fan at all. To be honest, sorry. Okay, fine. I've said it enough. Yeah. All right. What are we were talking? Oh yeah, and this is imagine Craig Nelson changing his name to Bobby Moore. Does he actually play for us? Is he a West Ham player now?
He's probably getting paid. It's all that matters to him.
Right. That's all that would matter. Is he even a real person? Like we like all this. We signed him that it was like we don't know who he is anymore. I mean, is he in the squad?
I don't think so. I haven't seen him on the bench or anything yet. So I don't know what's going on with him. We just basically got a new Wilshere apparently.
Maybe it's a new David Martin where it's like he's only a practice player.
Yeah, maybe until he has to step in against Chelsea and keep a clean sheet. Yeah. So okay. So just David Trezeguet is 43. Trezeguet, his eponymous player here, is 26. It's a 17-year difference. It's only 17 years difference between the two of them. You can't take somebody's name 17 years later. You can't do that. You got to wait a long, long time. You know what I mean? You got to wait like I'm saying 30 to 40 years minimum.
Got to wait for a stat named after him.
And even then, maybe like don't take the name of a guy who was a really well-known, big time player. Anyway,
that's like who was it? Was it Florida put the Tebow statue up while he was still going to university?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly what that is.
Like he's like a student at the University of Florida walking past his own statue. Yeah. Well, John, they did that at TCU. They put up a statue of Gary Patterson, the football coach, and he didn't want it. But the person who gave the money for it was dying, and he wanted to see the statue created before he died. So Patterson gave in and said, "Okay, fine, you can have a statue of me." But he didn't want the statue of himself. Certainly not while he was still there. But the poor man who gave the money was like, "No, I want to do this for you," so they did it. That's like years ago, University of North Texas had a football coach from Daryl Dickey, and North Texas has never had a very good football team. They had a football coach from Daryl Dickey, and he had a little bit of a run of success in the late 90s, early 2000s. And as the university fired him after a couple bad seasons. But this donor to the university donated money for a new practice facility and made the university name it after Daryl Dickey. It was like at the same time they fired him, they named a facility after him. So
nice. As they should.
Awkward things like that happen. But yeah, I don't know. I really have no idea what this means at all. But I should just skip right over that. Kieran, I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm with you on Trezeguet. That's okay. Well, another thing I wanted to mention while we're talking about random stuff. So Mark Noble comes out, or somebody from the club comes out and says we're ready to vote to go back to 5 substitutions or 5 subs.
Oh, I heard about that.
Why would we do this? Why would we do this? This makes zero sense for a tiny squad with no depth, with only something like 20 or 21 players even registered. A manager who, he did make some good impact subs, to be fair, on Saturday, but generally will not substitute until like the 89th minute. And when he has 5 subs, he only uses 2. Why are we? Surely that's something that benefits the bigger clubs and hurts us. Why would we do that?
Well, I think it was a Premier League thing. It wasn't just a West Ham thing. Like the Premier League. But
we're going to vote for it. Apparently, we're in favor of it. I would be totally against it.
Well, it already got turned down. Like the Premier League was like, no, we're not doing 5 subs again.
Right. At the beginning of the season, they said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it worked for the time that it was in place. But I mean, the only thing that I could think about that would make sense for 5 substitutions during the season is during the beginning of the season where you have, I don't know, because even then, it just benefits the bigger teams. But when you have a lot of the cup runs, international duties, and you're trying to get people, playing time or rest or whatever the case may be, that's the only time that makes sense. But even then, I mean, it's always been 3 substitutions. People are used to it.
Because his name is Rice. His name is Rice. That's why that's the joke. Because his name is Declan Rice. Now I get it. Okay. I'm sorry. I missed that altogether. At first. And now I get it. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Sally. Hey, Kieran.
The light just went off.
It's a good one, buddy. That's a good one. I get it. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I said what I was going to say.
His name was Rice. See?
Yeah.
I don't, John, can you make any sense of this? I can't make any sense of this. Why would we be for this?
So the sense that I make of it is that the board actually think that we're Champions League contenders. And I say that seriously. I know you're laughing. I say that.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at them. I think you're right. I think they're crazy.
We also voted to give more money to teams that finished higher up the league a few years ago. I can't remember exactly what the policy was, but there was something saying if you finished I don't know. It was distribution of money, and it only made sense for the rich teams to get richer. So they obviously think we're a rich team. So I can only think that it's by comparison to everybody else in the league. So they're thinking, we don't spend a lot of money currently on players, but maybe we should, and maybe when we hit the next level, we will. But is our depth, our 5 after the 11 is better than the 5 after the 11 of at least 10 other teams? That's the only that can be the only reason, and that.
I mean, I suppose that may be true.
Spend, I don't know.
But maybe it helps when we play Burnley or Palace or the mid-table clubs are the ones that are currently below us. But it's I mean, it's got to hurt us against the top 6, right? The top 8 or even the top 10.
It definitely will, because I mean, we know how everything's going, and the rich are only getting richer. The teams that are qualifying for the Champions League and Europa League are only lining their pockets more and more every year, and the gap is widening.
Yeah.
So for us to think that we're in that elite, we're not, and we're going to have to spend double, triple to really get anywhere near it. Because
we need a new owner. I mean, our owners aren't going to spend that kind of money. They don't have that kind of money. And I mean, I know you're joking about this, right? Because we know he's not going to the spending spree in January. What does that mean? Like another 35-year-old player on loan, who probably will make £110,000 a week, because that's usually how it works. But that's the spending spree we go on, is a wage spending spree, But yeah, it just doesn't. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And why they do this, I'm with you on that. Why they do this, I don't know, man. I don't know. Why do they still employ Karen Brady? Why is she a baroness? What is a baroness? There are so many questions I can't answer. Why is she a well-known business person? What has she ever done?
It's going to be so destructive for football, for competition, when you're going to have the top 6 continues just to pillage every other club for subs. I mean, look at Liverpool. Shaqiri is on the bench at Liverpool.
Right. Yeah.
I know. That's insane. He walks into our starting 11, surely, doesn't he?
Walks into everybody's starting 11.
Good player.
He walks into the starting 11 of 15 Premier League clubs. I mean, is that insane? I don't think so.
I mean, and Chelsea have been doing this for years. Look at Barkley over there at Everton now. I mean, Chelsea have been on the loan system forever. They've loaned out,
stockpile young players. They loan them out.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's getting to be like a lot like baseball, particularly baseball, kind of in the 90s, 2000s, when the Yankees just sort of dominated, or if you want to go back to historically to baseball, like in the 1950s, when the Kansas City A's were basically the Yankees farm team. That's all they were. They just they developed the player. You know what I'm talking about. You're a sports history guy. They developed the players, and the better players, Yankees just they just took, basically traded for whatever. It's the way football is headed is disturbing to me. One, because I think it's going to hurt our club because we're not a big money club, but 2, because the Premier League has enough of a caste system as it is, but at least there is a top 6 and not like a top 2. Do you know what I mean? At least it's wildly interesting up there. You don't want to get into a situation where it's like France or it's like Germany, where there's one club, 2 clubs, and then there's everybody else. At least I don't think we want that.
Well, right now there is, though, isn't there? I mean, it's the top 2 and then 4, I'd say.
I mean,
you do have the 2 front horses, Manchester City and Liverpool. But I mean, even then, I think in this league, there's so many teams that are on the cusp of like being right there. Like, Manchester United is one. Like, they're just a couple of smart decisions away from being. I mean, they had the front 3 that scored the most goals at any team last year. And with Greenwood, Rashford, and Martial. I mean, they're able to get whoever they want to because it's Manchester United. Manchester City would be like, you might not want to come to this side of Manchester, but we'll pay you more so you'll come over here. Right. Liverpool, and one thing that always kind of makes me laugh about Liverpool and them winning the title is how I understand how it was a big deal that you didn't have the Premier League title yet, but it's not as if you were stricken for you won the FA.
So sick of that. Yeah,
I was like
so sick of that.
When you're sitting there and your trophy case has Champions League trophies, but you haven't yet won the Premier League. Cry me a river. I don't care.
It's silly. You know what I'm talking about. Well, John, you do too. You're a college football guy. So sorry if you're not a college football. People are watching. If you don't know what I'm talking about. But you had those seasons a few years back where like LSU would win the SEC, but Alabama would win the national title. Do you know what I mean? That's
they
what
played against each other, and they're in the same division, and it was the dumbest thing that was ever in college football. Yeah.
It was stupid, but that's what it reminds me of. If Liverpool not to win the Premier League, who cares? They won the Champions League multiple times in the last like 15 years. It's like Alabama didn't win the SEC title whenever that was, 10, 12 years ago, but they won the national championship. So who cares who won the SEC title? You know, it's the same thing with Liverpool. All this gushing over, 30 years of hurt, 30 years of hurt. Get out. Come on, man. Nobody's hurting there. Nobody's hurting. You don't know hurt. You don't know what hurt is like.
Right. Well, and not only just for Liverpool and Manchester City, but I mean, you do have a lot of other clubs, I think, that are, you know, I don't think they're top 6 level, but they're like that mid tier, you know, like your Leicesters, kind of your Southamptons.
But you could see,
teams like that.
But Chelsea could win it, right? Could win the league. Chelsea could.
Oh yeah, I think there's a bunch of teams right now that could win the league.
I'm sorry, I think Tottenham could win the league. I don't think they will, but I think they could. And that's what I'm saying. It's like you do have the top 2, John. I think you're right, but you don't cut everybody else out completely.
There's a lot of parity in this league.
Yeah, not the way other leagues are. I agree with that.
The other leagues, like France, is just PSG, and nobody can touch them. It's not even worth watching anymore. And Germany, Bayern have won it something like 8 or 9 seasons in, on the trot, and only Dortmund can really compete with them. So I just hate to see, the Premier League go in that direction. Although usually our, excitement for the Premier League is the relegation battle and not the battle at the top. So.
I agree. I hate it too, because it's a reason people watch it, and they watch it because it's competitive compared to all the other leagues that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Reinvest in the brand. Don't worry about pissing off to the Champions League. And if you want to piss off to the Champions League, leave the English League. We'll be fine without you, because I'm watching West Ham. I couldn't care less about Man United.
I agree with you there.
That's fair, 100%. And the thing that's funny with that too is that the competition won't die if both Manchester, Liverpool, and Chelsea go to the European Super League. The competition is still going to be there. And it might even be more so because you're not going to have a team that is going to win it every year, at least not initially.
Yeah, it opens it up wide open, right?
It's anybody's at that point.
To us, to Southampton, to Palace, to Newcastle.
Everton.
Everton would be a huge candidate there. Leicester, if they stay around, they're not like a traditional power. Wolves, it opens it up to everybody. You think about the championship. The championship is one of the biggest leagues in Europe. People don't realize. I mean, you have Premier League, you have England. I'm sorry, you have Germany, France. Not really France. You have Germany, Spain, and Italy, and the Premier League, right? And maybe the French league, but the Champions League is like the 5th or 6th biggest league in Europe. The championship, I should say, is the 5th or 6th biggest league in Europe. Period. In terms of viewers, in terms of back when this was possible, fans in the grounds, in terms of anything you want, even like salaries and transfer fees, it may be the 5th biggest league in Europe. It's certainly in the top 6. So if the championship can survive at that level, then certainly a Premier League could survive without 3 or 4 big clubs.
And one thing too, and you have in the Champions League or Championship, rather is you still have a lot of teams down there with a bunch of history. I wanted Nottingham Forest to come up so bad last year just to have both Nottingham Town and I mean I don't know how everybody feels about the town of Nottingham and their football teams, but to have the one team that has the 3rd most Champions League wins out of any team in England. In Nottingham Forest, why not bring them back up there? You got Leeds back up here. Leeds has a huge following.
Proper following. Yeah, I love the underdog, right? It's one of the reasons why I support West Ham. I love the underdog, but I also appreciate clubs with history and clubs with a passionate following. And you look at like Brighton. I mean, what are they bringing to the Premier League really? Is it a great away day? It's in a nice part of the country, I guess, but they're not bringing any like passion or excitement. You want Leeds, you want Nottingham Forest, you want Sunderland back. I mean, they're floating around down in League One somewhere.
Last time I went to the London Stadium with Gary, we were playing.
Wait, that's the wrong one. I get this one about Nottingham Forest. I get this one. Okay, I got that, Kieran. I got it the first time. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's a nice town. I actually had the chance to go there once, and it's really nice. But what was it? I don't remember who exactly. We were playing Huddersfield, I think, actually, is who it was.
Was that the Chicharito game where he scored the 3-goal, where he scored the hat trick? And
no, it wasn't. He had a double, but I don't think he had.
Oh, it was a double. Oh, when we won 4-3, we were down like 3-1, and we won 4-3.
Yeah. Okay. And Huddersfield only had the bottom part of their away section filled, so you had the top portion of the away allocation empty. You know,
right?
That's what
I mean.
The whole town was there, and they couldn't fill their side.
Villa being back up. That's a proper club. That's a club that's won the European Cup. That's a proper club.
Yep.
Leeds, a proper club. I mean, to some extent, even West Brom, actually, certainly more history, I think, there than you're going to get at Brighton or Bournemouth or even Palace is not really it's not like one of the more storied clubs. They have actually not played that many seasons in the top flight. So, yeah, I'd love a Nottingham Forest back or a couple of clubs go down there.
Want none of them, Lee. You know what I want?
Who do you want?
Bring Millwall up.
Now see. Don't do it until the fans can come back, though.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. Don't not this. Yeah,
I want the Premier League to see what a real derby looks like.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the whole. You have the whole of London police at the London Stadium for that one.
You might. The thing is, even if fans were allowed in, they might not be allowed in for those 2 games anyway, because it's going to kick off. Listen, I obviously haven't been to one of those games. All right. But we've all seen them. We've seen them on TV. Kieran's up for it. We remember the last time we played Millwall. I think it was the last time we played Millwall was in the League Cup when we came back and won in extra time. And there was the pitch invasions, and I mean, it's like nothing else in sports. I guess you could I guess there are other derbies around the world, like a Boca and River or something like that. That are on that level, but this is a world-class derby, a world-class rivalry. And yeah, you're right. All this Premier League, it's a London derby. It's not. Crystal Palace and Watford is a London derby. All right, it's not. It's not no, I mean, I don't know. Even Arsenal and West Ham. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about hatred. We're talking about it's different. It's different. And I have an actual reason to hate Millwall because I had Ken and Ken's he's not on the chat. I haven't seen Ken in a while. We had an actual run-in with a Millwall supporter when we were in London. So yeah. So it's a little bit personal for me too. This dude was terrifying. To me anyway. To me, it was terrifying. I'm not used to that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you want to see the clubs with history,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, because that hatred, it stems from somewhere.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Ken, how you doing? It's good to hear from you. All right, I didn't know you're here. All right, sorry, go ahead, Sally.
But seeing what Happy just put, regarding the American owners of, Liverpool, Man United, and Arsenal, I wouldn't be surprised if that has something to do with those teams wanting to go away to bigger things. But at the same time, I think that brand of those teams had been there way before the American owners, like that money's been there, that following has been there, because Happy, I don't know where you live, but in America, you talk to somebody about football, guarantee you're not talking to a West Ham fan. You're talking to somebody who Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, some Man City, but, maybe since 2008.
Right.
And then,
it's Manchester United and Arsenal mostly.
Yeah, Manchester United, Arsenal, exactly, because those are the flashy teams. Manchester United, the birthplace of Cristiano Ronaldo, if you will, and then Arsenal. You had a lot of people in my generation. That's when Arsenal was like the shit. Pardon my language, but
it's true. It's true. In the 90s,
yeah, I mean, growing up, Arsenal,
yeah,
90s, early 2000s, yeah, Thierry Henry. Like, I mean, I'm no Arsenal fan, but I mean,
he's a great player.
I love me some Thierry Henry. Don't get me wrong.
I do too, Selly. I'm sorry. He's one of my favorite non-West Ham players. I think he's a magnificent player and a good guy, by the way. a good
exactly.
guy.
Yeah, no, but I mean, and so even regardless of that, whenever you're here, when football wasn't as big, let's say 10 years ago, because I really got into football, proper football, in 2007 because my high school team was really good in the country. You know, they were nationally ranked and whatever. And a lot of those guys would watch it. My athletic director in high school, huge Liverpool fan, had a badge in his office and everything on the wall. But when you're here, you had maybe 1 or 2 games a week that weren't the Champions League, and it was always Manchester playing somebody or Arsenal playing somebody, and then maybe Chelsea, you know. So those are the teams that you saw. So those are who you liked. You know, me being in Colorado, the Rapids, they're owned by the same guy who owns Arsenal. And inside Dick's Sporting Goods Park, where the Rapids play, there's a huge Arsenal badge and a cannon, you know, for that reason, you know. And they try to make this huge deal because Arsenal came over for a summer friendly, like, oh, you know, the 2 teams who are owned by the same guy are playing each other. Cool, Arsenal won 3-0. It wasn't even a match, you know, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, even look at New York and NYCFC.
This is true. Yep, this is true. Go ahead, Sully. Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
the Manchester City tie. Yeah,
they're Manchester City's team. Same kit, same logo, essentially, and stuff like that. So I think you have a lot of – I mean, they're not even American-owned, but you'll have a lot of people who will own teams in Europe or England specifically and be like, oh, well, America's a great place for us to make some money, you know, even if they're not American. So, you know, you have a handful of teams over here that are farm teams, basically. Not farm team might not be the right word to use, but
but not far off of it. Yeah,
not far off. I mean, David Beckham owns a team now out here. Thierry Henry is a coach in Montreal.
Yep, doing well. They made the playoffs, which is the playoffs are stupid, but that's not the point.
Yeah. Talk about Americans messing up a sport.
Oh, we've just absolutely destroyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the other thing too, and this is the thing that strikes me more than anything else. About this proposed international league with no relegation for 15 years and all this stuff. I don't know where that comment went, but I do see American owners trying to do this because the NFL, as you guys know, is just a gold mine. I mean, it's just it's just a money fountain. And
it's our Premier League.
It's exactly, and I do see them
trying to do that though. I mean, the more lucrative football becomes, I mean, you're talking about West Ham now, right? And they're saying anywhere from fans' projections of probably 200 million, chairman's projections 800 million. We're not talking a Fortune 500 company, but we're talking a considerable sized company.
Oh, yeah.
And as a brand, when you get to that kind of valuation, it's all about minimizing risk. And the biggest risks at any one of these football teams is relegation because your valuation.
They're terrified of it. And it's weird because they really shouldn't be threatened with it. But I mean, you know, a couple injuries, a weird run of luck, you know what I mean? They're terrified of it. Yeah. And if they were to start some continental European league, they couldn't have relegation. That would kill them. That would kill the whole thing because somebody would go down. You know what I mean? Some big European club would go down, and they can't have that. That would wreck the whole model. So it would turn it into the NFL, and I think that'd be a real shame. The NFL is great for what it is, but it's not what we want from football. And yes, I have to say, we'll tell those stories. This is true. That guy was really frightening to me. A legit, very frightening to me. Anyway, Ken knew what to do. Ken was an experienced hand. He knew what to do. So he, we were okay, but. I got that was belly to belly and eyeball to eyeball with Millwall for me, and that was as much as I ever wanted to see. So, yeah.
Well, and I think the one thing that I think would ruin that big league is the fact that, like, let's say you have all these top teams. You know, you already know off the top that you're going to have some teams that aren't going to be really competitive in it. You know, like I would imagine that like Napoli would be in it. You know, they might get a couple wins off of some bigger teams, but they're not going to do anything.
No,
you know,
they're not.
PSG probably won't even do anything. I mean, they got a lot of star players, but I mean,
they always
PSG,
get bounced from Champions League early, so yeah, they're not that good.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's still going to be, the same run of teams still competing for that. You know, you're going to have your Bayerns, Barcelona. Well, I mean, Bayern, Barcelona, Liverpool, maybe. I mean, Manchester City still hasn't won the Champions League yet, surprisingly enough. But I don't know. I think, you might have certain matches that you want to watch, but for uninterested parties like us, being West Ham fans, like I don't care.
I wouldn't watch it at all. I wouldn't watch it at all. I'd have zero interest in it.
You watch the Champions League now? I barely watch it.
I'll watch it when it gets to knockouts if the matchup is good enough.
If quarterfinals on, if it's an interesting matchup, yes. But like right now, absolutely not. Am I going to watch? Am I going to watch Juventus take on Trabzonspor or whatever from Turkey? No, I'm not going to do that. I don't care. It's like internationals. I don't care. I don't care about that. I don't care about Kazakhstan versus Albania or whatever. Sorry, I just don't. So I feel the same.
I would have watched Juve versus Barcelona if Ronaldo wasn't COVID positive, but there's but once it gets to knockouts, then you'll get the good matchups. And
knockouts is where they care. You know what I mean? Knockouts is where knockouts is where you get, and it's even to me, it's quarterfinals, maybe even semifinals on. There's only 3-4 Champions League games I watch per season. In all honesty, I know that sounds crazy, but that's all I really. I mean, I don't care. I just want it's for the entertainment. It's like watching the World Cup at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same thing with the Europa League. I'll watch the final, and that's about it.
Now the Europa League, the final, that's it. And other than that, it says it's totally irrelevant. Champions League, 3-4 games a season. That's it. That's all I care about. And that's a lot. So how many they play? They play opening rounds and everything else, but you really don't get down to it until you get down to the quarters or maybe the semifinals, and that's it. What do you watch it, John? Champions League?
Yeah. I got no reason to watch it, honestly. I mean, maybe I'll watch some highlights here and there just because I like football, but I ain't got time. I got time for West Ham, and after that, probably raking leaves. Like, that's my life these days.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that it pops on the middle of the day on a weekday, too.
No, that doesn't help. I was going to say, I mean, people will, I follow West Ham. You guys know that, obviously. I follow Saint Etienne, not as much as I follow West Ham, but I look after their results. I know who most of the players are. And I followed them for about 20 years now, but that's it. And if you ask me about another English club, I mean, unless we're playing somebody that week, I have trouble naming 5 players from any other English club. I don't. They're not in my head. I don't think about them. I just think about I think about West Ham. I think about our players. I think about our situation, and I'm like you, John. I don't have time for anything else. Do you know what I mean? I don't. Other than that, I'm working. I'm hanging out with the boys. I'm doing life stuff. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. I mean, am I going to sit here and like obsess over Champions League or get overly excited about a Champions League quarterfinal?
Now, if we were in it, I'd make time for it, wouldn't you? I mean,
100%.
I mean, that's different. I'll make time for us, right? Always make time for us, but yeah. But I mean, and this is almost always true to me too. And I've always thought this is true. This is one reason why I can't get into MLS. I'm sorry, I just can't get into it because there's no
MLS is just bad. It's just bad soccer. Period.
And the quality is so bad. And it's if you wanted to watch it, it's never even on TV, so it wouldn't matter.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it's on. You got to pay for ESPN Plus. I'm certainly not going to do that.
No.
There were more. So there's a Canadian. I've mentioned this before. There's a Canadian Premier League now that's not Montreal, Toronto, the MLS clubs, but there are other Canadian clubs. They play each other in a Premier League. There were more Canadian Premier League games on in like late summer, early fall than there were MLS games on TV. There's more Mexican games on. I can watch games from Mexico.
Oh yeah, turn on Telemundo. Yeah, and those guys get into it. I love Mexican announcers.
Pretty good players in Mexico. You got some pretty good players, and then you've also got guys with 3 numbers on their shirts, which I love for some reason. Like you have 192 come in. Like, why do they do that? I'm not sure. And they're not just like trialists. I mean, these are proper league matches. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Like you want to talk about some hatred? You got some fans there that cannot stand each other with a lot of those teams.
America and Chivas is a proper derby. That's a proper rivalry. And there's others too. There's a lot of others. But yeah, Mexican football's great. And now they have a playoff system too, but they also have relegation, so it works a little differently than here. But yeah, I haven't done this yet. My boys and I have played the World Cup on FIFA. Isaac was playing as England, and guess when he lost playing as England? He lost in the semifinal.
Nice.
To me, I was Portugal, and I had Ronaldo, so I finally beat him in the semi. He beat me, I was his opponent in every other match leading up. He won all the rest of them, right? He won all the rest of them. And they got to the semifinal, and he lost because he was England. And I said, well, that's really pretty true to life. what just happened there is pretty much what always happens. So, yeah, Charlie Boy's right. I mean, it's bad. The quality is bad.
I'll go to a game because it's soccer and I love the sport.
Oh, sure, it's
but there's only a handful, and like by handful I mean like 3 teams that are probably going to pack the stadium every time, have a real good experience, and it's just not a sport that people care about here, and
it could be though, you know what I mean?
It definitely could be. But I mean, there's already so much. I mean, you have more interest. Like NASCAR, funny enough, is the most televised, the most watched sport in America is NASCAR. Granted, it goes on for the most of the year,
right,
but at the same time,
yeah.
I mean, it goes February to I guess
just ended this weekend.
October,
and November, October,
year, So
yeah.
But I mean, it's the most televised, and you wouldn't think that because not everybody watches it. But you have NFL. Basketball, which is definitely number 2, baseball and hockey, and then it's soccer. And I call it soccer because it's American,
and it's way down.
MLS
is American. You know what, Sully? You also have like college football before MLS.
Before MLS,
you have college basketball before MLS. You have, I mean, it's like 8.
Though. I mean, put NASCAR behind the paywall the way that some of these other sports are behind the paywall and see what happens to it.
No, well, they're not going to.
I don't know, because you have some diehard NASCAR fans in this country. Like, if you live in the South, it's a religion down there. So,
but you wouldn't get the You're right, Sully, but you wouldn't get the casual fans. I agree with that. You wouldn't get.
No. I mean, most people that will watch anyways will just watch for the crashes. But no, I agree.
That's why my son watches. He just wants to see the crashes. No, he does. He loved. I mean, some guy almost died at Daytona this year, right? I can't remember who it was, but anyway, it was very horrible crash, and that was like Isaac's favorite part of the race. I was like, okay, you understand that like these are real people and this is not a video game, but whatever.
I'm much more optimistic on football over here than that, though, because if you look at live attendances, and granted the stadiums are a little bit bigger, I think it is second only behind American football right now, isn't it? By live attendance.
Somewhat for the MLS?
That's possible because for 2 reasons. One, yes, the stadiums are bigger. Every hockey arena, basketball arena is going to top out at 18 to 20,000 people. Most. All over 15, 16. And the other reason I think, and Seattle plays at a 60,000 seat stadium. They fill about half of it. Portland and Vancouver. The other reason that I believe, and I actually have a friend who did some research on this, and it's legit. The West Coast MLS teams do much, much better in terms of attendance and in terms of TV ratings. And I think part of the reason is they're on the West Coast. If you are in Philadelphia or Boston or New York and you want to watch soccer, we'll call it soccer for the time being. If you want to watch soccer, you can get up and watch the Premier League at 10 o'clock in the morning, or you can watch a 7 a.m. game or whatever. Those games on the West Coast start at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know this, Sully. You're in Mountain Time. You're 2 hours.
Yeah, 4:30 a.m.
4:30 a.m. The normal Premier League game starts at 7 a.m. in California.
Mm-hmm.
People don't get up and watch that on Saturdays. Yeah, hardcore fans do. Our fans do. West Ham fans do. But the average American fan is not up watching a soccer game at 7 o'clock in the morning. But at 10 a.m., sure, why not? It's a great time to watch a game.
And John, when I say soccer, I'm not talking about Premier League. I'm just specifically talking about MLS. MLS won't, and I don't know if that's what you were talking about too, but MLS, I don't think will. Yeah, I mean, in the summertime, why not go to it? You have that or baseball. I'd
rather go to an MLS game than a baseball game. I have to say, I'll admit. I hate Fenway Park. That's part of the reason.
But I mean, at the same time, it's a good experience, and that when you go to a game, you're going to be there with people who know what they're watching. Right. You're not necessarily going to have that experience where you go to a baseball game to where you have a quarter of the stadium is just there to day drink. And not know what's going on.
And fight. Although Fenway these days is very bourgeois. Fenway used to be like a very blue collar experience, and now it's a bunch of middle managers, in khaki shorts, drinking cocktails. It's changed. It's not what it used to be. It used to be legit, but you go to a Yankees game at Fenway now, and they're all eating cheese off charcuterie boards. It's not.
Yeah, fun. But and I think MLS is smart for the time of year that they play, because I think. And especially, the West Coast teams, the Southern teams, you have good weather throughout most of the year.
Oh, yeah, during the summer. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, not even just then, but I mean, with it's about to go into the playoffs. We've had many snow games here in Colorado. You're not going to have a lot of people go and watch soccer in the snow. Now, if the Broncos are playing, absolutely. I've been into a stadium, 75,000 people and minus 5 degrees. You're not getting more than like a couple thousand in that stadium for the Rapids for minus 5. But I mean, it is fun because I will say you do have people that'll go to watch football and not just casually be there.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the Revs games, they don't get that many fans. They don't get as many fans as they say they do. But that's part of the problem is we're in a baseball heavy market here in Boston, and also just a market where people spend a lot of money on other sports. But maybe that's just fine on the West Coast. Attendance wise, it does pretty well. I won't have any interest in it until there's a promotion relegation system, because until then there's no. I mean,
adding enough teams for it to be a promotion relegation system, you got like 30 some odd teams now. Just put a line to like 25 and call it relegation.
The problem, I think, is that these owners, these wealthy owners, put a lot of money into these franchises. MLS franchises are not particularly cheap, and they're franchises. They're not clubs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The league owns everything. You buying into the league, whereas with the Premier League, you're only in it if you're good enough to be in it. It's hard to go to somebody like Bob Kraft and say, well, thanks for your tens of millions of dollars that you've put into MLS, but the Revs suck this year, so now they're going to be in the second division next season, and they're going to play like the Carolina Railhawks, or they're going to play, they're not going to be in the big TV contract. You know what I mean? Those owners are going to be like, nah, they're not going to have that. Not these American billionaires. They're not going to be up. They're not going to stand for that at all.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it might be more of a motivation. Go ahead. Sorry.
I said, didn't West Ham lose to the Carolina Railhawks, just for the record?
Yes, we did lose to the Carolina Railhawks. Yes, that is correct. That did indeed happen. I didn't go, but that did indeed happen. This is, I mean, I know we're way off topic, but who cares? It's an international week. I would agree. I agree with it. It would energize the entire football pyramid, because then you really would have, great old United would be able to move up from the NPSL to the USL or whatever. I mean, you'd have a reason to play, The other thing we need to do in this country is democratize the sport and stop this business of having clubs cost thousands of dollars for players. It should be the other way around. Our clubs should be going out and scouting like they do in Europe. They should be going out and scouting kids my son's age.
I understand it to a degree, because you don't want New York City Red Bulls to have everybody who doesn't feel like they're good enough for the Premier League anymore coming over to play for them specifically. But at the same time, to what you were saying earlier about having owners who are like, well, your team got relegated. I mean, sucks to suck. Build a better squad.
Squad. Ken was there. It was a draw versus the Railhawks. So, John, we spared our blushes. All right, don't but what I'm talking about, not just MLS. I'm talking about these soccer, these youth clubs, right? Because I've been involved in this a little bit. These youth clubs where you pay like $3,000 a year to have your kid play.
That's good.
That's got to go, man. You've got that. You can't. You're cutting out the kids who are actually going to play the sport in this country. You're cutting out the best athletes in this country, generally speaking. You're cutting out everybody but upper middle class and upper class kids who are mostly going to be the same types of kids from the same types of places. You're cutting everybody out of that. You're just not giving the sport a chance to breathe. Basically just go into the rich suburbs and say, well, this is your sport. Look at our stupid national team. That's who half of those guys are.
There's so many problems with that system, and I'll give a plug to HBO Real Sports if anybody watches that, because they cover stuff like that relentlessly. Yeah, it's a
great show, actually. Yeah, it's a great show.
But between the price of entry, so regular people or regular kids like how I was growing up that started playing football in alleyways and on any green space that was available, are completely priced out of playing. Yes. Everything's been professionalized from 5 years old up, which A, costs money, B, is a little ludicrous because people don't really, the kids aren't learning the love of the game. They're not discovering things for themselves, being told what to do. Yep. And C, you're doing year-round sports, year-round football, year-round baseball, whatever it is, and stuff is straining injuries on these kids at rates that's far beyond anything that we saw 20, 30 years ago.
No question about it. Pushing them too hard.
kid sport is disgusting, to be honest. And I don't know what it is. Part of the parents have got some part to blame in it. We're going off on International Week. Let's just rant about parents. That's where we're at now. That's what we're doing.
Well,
for all these coaches, why are there so many clubs? Why can't kids go down the park anymore? There is no parks because I got to go rent field space. Who ever fucking rented field space when I was 8 years old? Nobody rented field space.
Nobody rented field space.
Played. It's insane.
You're absolutely right. Listen, we're very fortunate where we live. Now, I don't. My boys are not going to be professional footballers, and that's okay. But they do play. It's the only sport they play. It's the only sport they know anything about, other than NASCAR. But we out here in our do what?
I told you NASCAR. There it is again.
I don't know what it is. The Lightning McQueen movies, I think, that did it for them. That got them into it. Out here in our side, we have a side yard, a little plot of land next to our house that we own. We put up 2 goals out there. I bought a couple of goals at the beginning of the pandemic. I thought we're going to need something to do at home, so I got a couple of goals. So we actually have a little pitch. Ken's seen it. He knows what I'm talking about. We have a little pitch out next to the house. And, they can play out there, and their cousins come over and we play. Most kids around here don't have that, and you're right. You can't just go play somewhere because you got to rent the park in a lot of cities. Now, here in Chelmsford, it's not as bad. But if you're in Boston, you can't there's no place to do that. When I lived in Waltham, Mass., which is more urban type area, you'd see the guys there playing on tennis courts. They'd take the nets down and play on tennis courts because the tennis courts were available. But it's hard to find a place to play. All the emphasis is it's never on teaching the game in schools, and the MLS clubs I know they have academies, but they're very limited.
Yeah.
There are not clubs. We don't have a system of clubs in this country where they're going out and they're scouting 9 and 10 and 11-year-old kids the way they do in Europe and in South America. We don't have that here. It's the opposite. You've got to get yourself noticed by a club, which means you got to pay for it. And it just it cuts out the players who are the most interested in the best players. And then, as you said, John, when they do get involved with these multi-$1,000 clubs, they just get it drilled into them. You know what I mean? It's not for fun. It's not for love of the game. Just this is how you get a scholarship. Plow, 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 plow.
Yeah. So Happy Hammer here. Let me put his comment up.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up. And it's funny. You jumpers for goal.
Yeah.
The old cliche. You put it down, there's your goalpost. These organizations, and just to explain to our British audience, right, how these are, and I think in Britain now you're more acquainted with American college football and stuff like that, so you kind of get how these kids are brought into the system and then put into university and then become professional. It's not the same as over there where you have academies and people are scouted, whatever, centers of excellence. All of these professionalization pieces now in youth sports, they all come with a video highlight reel option. I mean, at least
crazy.
So these guys now, they're setting up these organizations. You've got local football clubs, if you will. They're run mainly by a lot of the parents in the area who also pay the dues and pay fees to have professionals, A, coach, and B, you have a massive video editing department that will clip highlight reels of your kids over the course of a season, package them into a video, and distribute them to universities across the country so that potentially your kid gets a scholarship somewhere. It's incredible.
And it's again, this is all. These are wealthier people who can afford to do this stuff. You can't do this if you're a working class family. You're cut out of it altogether. I mean, that's why, these guys go play basketball. You can go you can put a hoop up in your driveway. You can go down to the park. You can play basketball all you want. You know what I mean? You could, I don't know how many people really play baseball casually anymore, but basketball is the sport that we've sort of democratized in this country and given everybody access to. But soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, it's totally, it's totally been cut off and just reserved for sort of the upper classes. And I'm not a class warrior or anything. I'm just saying it's cutting a lot of these kids out.
How do you get a Diego Maradona in that system?
You don't.
How do you find him?
at our national team.
One thing that's interesting too, with you put the jackets down and stuff like this, is one thing I think with the urban sprawl that is, happening all over the place in America now.
Yeah.
Is you don't have backyards anymore. Like I was lucky enough, my backyard where I grew up is pretty big, as far as backyards go. So, for us, what we would do is we would go, and it wasn't even like putting a jacket down. What we would do was get like something to hang on two different parts of the fence.
There's John reminiscing about his childhood. Sorry, Sally. Yeah. Go ahead. A famous character from the Fast Show. Anyway, sorry, Sally. Go ahead.
Put up something, to mark, okay, well, these are the goals right here. Or, we would used to play in the street and stuff. But I think a lot of that too, I feel like my generation was one of the last ones to want to go outside and play outside. And I wasn't even forced to do it. I wanted to do it.
I wanted to do it too. That's a really good point, actually.
And it's not. And I grew up Xbox, PlayStation, stuff like that. That was becoming a thing, and but for us, like for me and my friends, we would go outside. Baseball. We had a baseball diamond right down the street from us, but the street in front of our house, we'd play football. We'd honestly even play basketball, or not basketball, but baseball in there too.
We did that too.
Like hockey, all that stuff in the street. Yep. And then when the sun was going down, then we would go in and play. Sometimes if it was like scorching hot, we would stay in and do video games. But, it wasn't something to where like, oh, the PlayStation Series X or the Xbox Series X is coming out. Let me, stay inside. Like, no, summer break, like we were outside all the time. I have scars on me to this day from stuff I got growing up as a kid, but I don't see it happening anymore.
You're totally right on both counts. One, the access to yards. I was walking around the other day. We walked down our street here into Lowell. Lowell is a city. It's 100,000 people, but it's very urban compared to where we live. And it's about a 20-minute walk this direction and a 20-minute walk north. And we walked into this new housing area. It's pretty nice, actually. It's single family, some multifamily homes, but it's nice. Brand new. It's nice. But there's no green space to speak of at all. There's a playground, which is, fine, but there are small yards, but there's really no like park or, it's just not there. So kids aren't going to walk to the park and play. They don't have that. But two, you're right about video games. I'm old enough that I can remember the early days of Atari and Intellivision and, when Pong was a big deal and that sort of thing. I'm old enough to remember hooking up to the TV. You know what I mean? Well, which you still do, but put it on like Channel 3 and, I go back a little ways, go back to the late 70s with this stuff. Right. But I'm like you, Sally. When I was a kid, every day after school, every day of the summer, outdoors, 135 degrees in small town outside of Dallas. And we were playing, we played basketball, everybody in basketball who played basketball. We played football. We played soccer. If we had enough kids, we played baseball in the field behind my house. That's all we did. Sports. That's all I thought about. I don't remember what it was the other day that my wife and I were talking about. And, she was talking about things that she used to think about when she was in school and when she was a kid. And she was a very sort of deep thinker. And I said, I used to draw NFL logos in my notebook. Like all I really wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't. So yeah, I was the same way. I was obsessed.
There's it's not a documentary. It's a mini series on Netflix called The English Game. I don't know if a lot of you guys have seen it, but
the first 2 episodes that I haven't gone back to it, but yeah.
I definitely recommend it. It's not necessarily the exact points of which we're talking about, but it does talk about how when football was getting started up in the UK, how all the teams were played by, the gentlemen, people who came from money, who had money, but you had a lot of people who would play who, as John was saying, like on the streets, on a mud patch that was big enough to be a football field and stuff of that nature. In essence, the story is, or the series is the story of the first official professional footballer who came in from Scotland, because people didn't get paid at that time because, it was unallowed, but he got paid under the table to play because he was this really good dude from Ireland, I think. Anyways, if anybody hasn't seen it, I do recommend it. It's really good. It's called The English Game, if anybody forgot. But yeah, there's a lot of that too.
I watched the first couple of episodes with my wife, and I don't think she liked it that much. It's not really her thing, but I need to go back, and if I ever see a TV on my own, which I almost never do, I need to go back and watch the rest because it was good. Yeah, it was. It was.
But I think there's just too much other stuff for people to do here. Not even just electronics and stuff like that. But as John was saying too, there's people, kids are from an early age like, okay, well, the springtime you're doing baseball, summertime you're doing baseball, fall time you're doing football, spring you're doing basketball, and or baseball, and it's a never ending cycle. And I get it at the beginning, maybe see what your interests are, but once you know that you're like what you love to do and what you're good at, then appreciate it, Kieran. And what you're good at, follow it. Because like how over here you don't have the academy systems from when you're 7, 8. They see you, okay, come play for us for the rest of your life, essentially.
Right, they pay you and they put you through school and they take care of you. You don't take care of them; they take care of you. Yeah, we don't do that. We don't have that system.
No, mainly because the clubs aren't rich enough to do that. But either way, it doesn't matter.
Well, some of the owners are. They just don't want to spend that much on this sport.
Sure.
And they don't understand. And they don't understand how it works. I mean, I pick on Bob Kraft only because he's here, he's local, and he's been such a great owner for the Patriots for all these years. And as great as he's been for the Pats, he's been not great for the Revolution in a lot of ways. But I don't think Bob Kraft knows anything about how European football works. I don't think he has.
No, definitely not.
He has no idea, and he doesn't care. It's not his business. He's been a massively successful NFL owner, and that's what he cares about. And he keeps the Revs around, or not right now, but he kept the Revs around so that the
paycheck for him.
Right, people would fill the stadium in the summer. You know what I mean? It booked Gillette for 30, however many, 15, 20 games, whatever it is they play. It booked Gillette for the summer, right? And so they got 10, 15,000 people in instead of it sitting empty. But he doesn't. I mean, he knows nothing about the European football pyramid or the English football pyramid. He has no idea.
Wouldn't even be surprised if he's never been to a game.
Well, interestingly, he had Chelsea over for a friendly a week before Chelsea played in the Europa League final last season. So he and Roman Abramovich had a friendly here, it was at Gillette. I took my nephew because my nephew's a big Chelsea kid, working on him, but he's still a big Chelsea kid. So I took my nephew, and Abramovich and Kraft, it was for Jewish charities. They were doing raising money for Jewish charities. So they had a match here. And so I know he's had contact with, people in Europe, right? But I don't think he knows anything about how English football works. No, but interestingly, that was where Ruben Loftus-Cheek blew out his Achilles tendon or something like that in that game. It was terrible. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. It was horrible to watch. I mean, I hate seeing players get injured.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one reason too, that.
Yeah, this is true. That's where Kraft's money went. I know. It's true.
The American, the men's national team, right? They're not good. You have good players, but they're not good. So I think that's a big reason as to why you don't see. Now, granted, I will say, as you were talking earlier about TCU's soccer team for the women's team is great, and you'll see a lot of really good club soccer for girls. You'll see girls at a young age wanting to get into soccer because you have a team that's dominant. And not only are they dominant, they're incredibly outspoken. They're really good role models.
And we invested in women's sports in this country 40, 50 years ago. In the 1970s, Title IX made investment in women's sports a law. You had to do it. Universities had to do it. High schools had to do it. You had to do it. And we're seeing the fruits of that. For the last 25 years, we've seen what that's done for us.
Yeah.
And I don't think in most of Europe there was any investment in women's sports or women's football. So, they're way behind us. Because
what do you make of Megan Rapinoe's comments about Man United being disgraceful, not having a women's team 10 years ago or whatever it was?
I mean, to me, I like the fact that our women's players are outspoken about. I do think they should be paid as much as the men in this country. All right. Not in England because it's a different sport over there. But I think the women's team should make the same money or more as the men because they're more successful. They draw more fans. They draw more TV viewers. They're a bigger draw. Supply and demand. They're a bigger draw. Okay. But let me get back to what you were asking. I don't think she has any idea of what the development of women's football has been like in other parts of the world. With all due respect to her, all right. I don't think she understands that the UK was not a place where schools and organizations were investing in women's sports 50 years ago the way they were here. I think the fact that there's a women's league in the UK at all is fantastic. I think it's fantastic that it even exists, that we have a club in it at the top level. I think is great. That it's a disgrace that there wasn't one 10 years ago. In my opinion, it's a ridiculous comment, and it's one that comes from a little bit of ignorance. So sorry.
Well, one thing that
I'm just telling you the truth.
I didn't hear about her comments until I saw somebody reacting to it, and I feel like the person who was reacting to it had made a lot of really good points in argument to what Megan Rapinoe said in terms of Manchester United, the club, not the men's team, but the club as a whole, wanted to take their time and do it right.
Right.
So they wanted to make sure that they weren't rushing into it. I think they use all the same facilities that the men use. Well, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. It's the same for us. But they were saying that they've done it well and that their women's team for Manchester United, I believe, is top of the table right now for the women. They are for the time being, anyway. So
that's right.
I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I don't have any problem with the fact that it took Manchester United or any other club as long as it did to come up with the women's team. I'm glad they have them. I support the West Ham women. We've had players here on the show in the past. I mean, I just think her comments come from a place of ignorance, quite frankly. And I would say, maybe celebrate the fact that Manchester United has a women's team now instead of bemoaning the fact that there wasn't one 10 years ago. Maybe have a little more positive outlook. What do you think, John?
No, well, I agree with you. I think it probably is coming from a place of ignorance because if you look at what you're saying about Title IX and women's sports over here and how that was promoted, and also the view of what football was in this country was football's a game for girls and American football's a game for boys. And if you went to England when I was, 30 years ago when I was in school, all boys played football or girls played netball. That was like the how you defined. And I'm not saying that's how it actually was. I'm saying that's how you were pointed. You were pointed in that direction. Boys play football, girls play netball. So the culture change just on that alone has been big in the UK, I think, in the last 10, 15, 20 years. So,
and I think she just doesn't understand that.
I think she's also a firebrand who likes going out and making bold statements.
That's true.
And causing controversy. And listen, there's a place for that. There is. And I don't really have a problem with that. The problem I have is that she, in my opinion, she damages her credibility when she makes statements like the one she made about Manchester United. Because again, I don't think she understands the culture or the history of football in the UK, exactly what you just summarized there in about 15 seconds. I don't think she understands that and doesn't seem to want to understand it. So be a firebrand, be an advocate for women's sports. I'm all for that. But, back it up with some facts. Do you know what I mean? I mean, have some credibility. Have some
on a personal level as well. I think it's been devastating seeing Alex Morgan in a Spurs shirt this week. So.
100%.
I can't stand it. It's no, I'm seriously, it's awful. And then my niece said to me, one of my nieces, I have 3 nieces who are all little footballers. Well, they're not little. One of them's 18, but they're all soccer players. And my 13-year-old niece said, well, my favorite team is going to be the one that Carly Lloyd signs for. And I was like, no. Your favorite team is West Ham. Your favorite team is West Ham. But it's hard. West Ham is a hard sell. Let's be honest. I keep telling them they have a women's team, and whatever.
I mean, would West Ham be that much of a hard sell to a female player? Because I feel like it's a complete different draw. Because I mean, no matter where you go,
player. I mean, as a fan.
Oh, right. Okay.
No, as a player, no, I don't think so. I think as a player, it's a pretty decent club to sign for. But as a 13-year-old girl who's a huge fan of the U.S. women's national team, and I'm sitting there trying to tell her like, oh, be a West. She's never heard of West Ham except for me because I wear West Ham stuff every time I see the family.
Sure.
I mean, it's a hard sell. It is.
Yeah. Well, and even so, to kind of bounce off both of you guys' points, even though England has been relatively new for the promotion of women's professional sports. The national team is really good, and obviously the women's team here has been fairly good since the late 90s. Or really, maybe even the 80s.
They won the first World Cup for the first time, something like 1991.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But
and I get this too. I mean, I do. They've lost to boys high school. I get this. That's just a biological thing to me. Do you know what I mean? I don't care if they compete with men or not. That doesn't bother me at all.
Well, and see, that really is not an issue to me. The thing with that, and I know I don't want to get into necessarily an argument of like why one is better than the other, but I feel like football is one of those things to where it's genuinely the same sport and there's no difference between men and women playing it. Maybe the pace of play, but that's really about it. I genuinely don't think that there's things that men can do in football that women can't do in football. And that goes for like everything.
I think men, at the top level, okay, I'm not talking about a person like me. I'm not talking about somebody like me who's constantly struggling to lose weight and who's a terrible athlete. Among elite athletes.
Hey, you're an international rugby player. Don't cut yourself
true.
short.
That is true. That is true. Played in France, played in Holland. You're right about that. Can't forget that. Anyway, I think, biologically, I don't think there's anything sexist about this. I think it's just true. Men tend to be bigger, stronger, faster than women at the elite level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usain Bolt's probably faster than the fastest woman in the world, I guess. What other example do you want to come up with? Weightlifting or any?
No, and basketball is a good example. Not every woman can dunk. When you have like 5'8" people in the NBA dunking.
Exactly. Spud Webb won the slam dunk contest, many years ago. He's 5'7". He's shorter than I am. Muggsy Bogues was 5'3". I don't know if you could dunk. Muggsy Bogues was 5'3", playing in the NBA. But yeah, biologically, men are going to have advantages, but I don't really. I don't really care about that. The reason I think American women's players should make the same money for the national team as the men do, it's a simple business argument. They're better. It's a simple argument of capitalism. It's all true. Their games bring in more fans to the stadium on television. They drive at least as many sponsorships and probably more. And beyond that, they're vastly more successful. They're 4-time world champions. So,
yeah, men can't make it past the quarters.
Right. If the women's league is not as successful as MLS, that's a different story to me. That's up to the leagues to handle that on their own. The national team, where the United States Soccer Federation is paying these players for what they're doing in their service to the national team, there's absolutely no reason why the women shouldn't make as much as the men, and they should probably make more because they're a better team that's more successful and brings in more revenue.
100%.
It's just capitalism. That's all. It's pure, beautiful American capitalism.
Well, and one thing too for the men's side of it, why I think you don't have a lot of boys, getting into it at a young age. Well, I shouldn't say a lot because you do have a fair amount, but I think why it's not a bigger sport in the league. One, for the international ineptitude, like losing to El Salvador for or Trinidad, whatever the case may be. But
yeah.
You have, and props to them. I'm definitely not shunning anybody for wanting to play overseas. But imagine if like you had a McKinney and Pulisic and that kid who plays for Barcelona playing in the MLS. It happened once with the dude, and that was it. Everybody else is overseas now. If they played here, like if Pulisic played for Pennsylvania for the Union, or not, the Union, right? Yeah, he would very well, in my opinion, be a face of the city, just how you have Carson Wentz a face of that city. Because he would run the league,
right?
And the Union already are they're a fairly good team.
Yeah, they're a good team. Yeah.
But I feel like if you had that, because our best players, and again, no shun to anybody, our best players in the MLS are not American. And it's just a simple case of fact, But
and we don't like that. We like America. We like to be the best at everything, and we like for our players to be the best at everything.
Oh yeah, sure. And the only reason you have the women's team playing over in England is because they can't play here right now. and they want to get training for the World Cup. So
they're all going to come back when the league opens back up again. They're all going to come back.
Look at Kobe though. Look how revered Kobe was all around the country, but only one market actually had access to him, and that's the people that lived in LA. I mean, not everyone could go see Kobe live, but he was huge. Yeah. So I think Americans also value seeing their people be the best in the world.
That's fair. Yeah, definitely.
I do too.
In Europe, some of these kids, then they're going to be big. They're going to be really big. Pulisic is already, and you see, and NBC over here is already putting every game behind the paywall.
Yeah,
I know. I've noticed that. It's all on Peacock. Yeah, they know what. Yeah, Well, I think our men's team has always been a little bit of an embarrassment because, in a lot of in the sports we bother to play, we tend to be pretty good, right? I mean, basketball. Well, I'm serious.
No, you're right.
Basketball. We're never going to be a contender in cricket or rugby. Or, those aren't sports here that really.
Really, what you're saying is the sports that America is good at, America invented.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, no, I'm 100% saying that. Absolutely, we're good at the sports we invented. Baseball, although we're arguably the Dominicans are better at that, but still, baseball, basketball. The Canadians are better at hockey, but that's their game. But no. But even if you look at like the Olympics, okay, if you look at something like the Olympics, I mean, generally these days, now that the Soviet sports empire has crumbled, the Americans win a lot of medals at the Olympics in a lot of different events, especially summer, not so much winter, especially summer. Because again, winter, we don't care. Summer Olympics, the various sprints and races and wrestling and all this other stuff that we win a lot of, So when we bother to be good at something, we're generally pretty good at it. When we invent a sport, we're good at it. And it's an embarrassment if we're not good at something on the national stage. And that's why a lot of people won't watch football or won't watch soccer, if we call it that. Because, they know that we're kind of mid-tier at best, that we're not near the world's elite. I always go back to Bill Simmons many years ago when he was writing for ESPN. I think this was around maybe the 2002 World Cup or maybe 2006. And he said, this is when George Bush was president. He said, before every men's match that's televised around the world, President Bush come on television around the world and say, remember, these are not our best athletes. If you want to watch our best athletes, watch basketball or football or baseball. But the soccer players are like our third or fourth tier athletes. And I think that's the way a lot of people feel, they're kind of embarrassed by it.
Well, I think going off of both of your points, I will agree with John. I think if you get like a McKinney or Pulisic who somehow get to the same level as like a Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, I think it will definitely bolster the appeal of the game in this country.
The Canadians can make it too, Kieran. The Canadians can make it too. So come on now, be fair. Anyway, so go ahead, Sally. I'm sorry.
But I do think that a lot of it too, it doesn't even necessarily have to do with the fact of who invented the sport. I just think, and I know this from talking to people, just Americans don't like it because it's just slow to them. I don't think they find the appeal of a 0-0 game. And I'll tell people all the time, like, you sometimes could have a 0-0 game that's more exciting than a 4-4 game.
No question.
But I tell them, like, you have to know what you're watching, but if you don't bother to take the time to know what you're watching, then you're not going to enjoy it, and I think that's a big thing that goes into it too, and earlier, just like how you were saying with the watching West Ham versus the Champions League, there's already so much time invested in other sports.
Yeah.
That, I think maybe it just feels like overload to like, okay, well, let me get into the MLS or let me get into watching international.
It is overload.
Yeah. It's and I don't even buy it because it's slow, Sally, honestly, because if that was the case, then baseball would be a non-starter.
It's the same conversation. And like I said, I tell people who say that you just have to know what you're watching, because there are times where football is slow, but there are also times to where a slow game can turn its head in an instant.
Exactly. And we know that there are bad football matches. We know that the players dive. And we hate all that stuff. I say this all the time. We don't like diving players. We don't like any of the play acting. I hate that. I hate it in football. I hate it in hockey. I hate it in any sport. You've seen it in the NFL a little bit lately too. It's started to creep in. Everybody hates that.
Yeah, but there is definitely soccer is one of those sports that it'll give you a drama that you can't find anywhere else.
Absolutely. And you're right. A 0-0. If we go into Anfield or if we go into Manchester City Stadium, can't think of the name of it now, and we pull off a 0-0, that could be a thrill, like a really great match, because it's a good result for us, generally speaking. So yeah, it's you have to know what you're watching, and the anybody who says to me that soccer or football is boring because it's slow, but then talks about baseball, I mean, you've lost me right there. There's no slower sport than baseball, and everybody loves a pitcher's duel in baseball, which means there's no scoring.
Yeah.
I will say that people are consistent. A lot of people who don't like football or don't like soccer, they don't like hockey either, and they don't like the low scoring nature of it. Now, those are probably my two favorite sports. I like American football too, but I like it. I like the drama of it. But anyway, I would, I think, I do think, it's hard to break in. But if you look at, the Premier League is I think it's on the cusp of being huge in this country. I think it's on the cusp of actually, I'm not saying competing with the NFL but it's on the cusp of asserting itself as a legitimate American sports league that we follow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that the next TV contract is going to be interesting. I think
too.
Will have a time keeping a hold of it, to be honest.
You've got to have somebody who will put it on either cable or streaming or free to air, not this Peacock business. Do you know what I mean?
I think Amazon might come after it. They already did in the UK.
That's what I'm saying. One of the reasons the NFL is what it is. Why is the NFL what it is? I have a few theories. One, it's super violent. People like that. Okay, that's not. You're not going to get that with football, with soccer. I'm going to say soccer to keep things separate. I don't usually say that, but the NFL is super violent. Number one. Number two, it's the greatest gambling sport of all time. One game, and I'm not a gambler, but one game a week. You get injury reports ahead of time. You get all these scouting reports ahead of time. It's the greatest gambling sport ever invented. Number three, it is the best TV sport ever. It is the best TV sport ever. No, it is
definitely not. Hockey.
No, it is. Well, no, hockey on TV is terrible. No, that's the thing.
Oh, no.
American football on TV?
American football on TV.
That's
better.
The bar, it's fantastic because there's one play and then it stops and then you eat your chicken wing, you talk
That's
to your
what I'm saying. It's better than going to the game. The only sport that's better on TV than live is American football. The only one. In my hockey, I watch hockey on TV because I love hockey, but
there's nothing better than going to a live hockey game. I'll give you that.
That may be the best sport you can go to live, to be honest. I love it. I love it. Love it. It's probably better than soccer if you want to know the truth. Sorry, but I think it is. Depending on where you go. But the NFL, one of the big reasons the NFL is so big, it has been on TV on Sunday afternoons and Monday nights for 50 years. And it's been on free-to-air network television for 50 freaking years. And it's going to be 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock if you're in the Eastern time zone. And yes, this is true.
Yeah.
This is there's nothing like this. When it's coming on. If Amazon or some streaming service will come along, get the TV contract to the Premier League, John, as you said, and then say, all right, 10 o'clock Saturday morning, East Coast, all the games streaming, no subscriptions, no paywalls. You just watch whichever game you want. It's like NBC Sports Gold, but without the extra cost.
And it wouldn't even be hard to do because golf has its own network here.
Right.
And that is the most boring thing on the face of this planet. I'm sorry if that offends people, but it's the truth. If golf can have a channel in this country, Premier League football can definitely have one. And they could even make it an international football channel too, with something like that if you want to get real spicy with it. But yeah, you could definitely do it here.
We've got like a Gordon Ramsay replay channel over here right now on Roku TV where all it is Gordon Ramsay shows 24 hours a day.
Yeah, no, hey, I will say you definitely cannot knock a good cooking channel because the Food Network with Chopped, that's binge TV right there.
We've been watching this show We watched this show on Netflix called It's called Gentified. It's not gentrified. It's like Gentified.
Yeah, Gentrified on Netflix. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good show, but man, I was
Great show.
watching that show. They own it. It's this family, this Mexican American family. They own a taco shop in LA, and I get so hungry watching that show, like after dinner. And you know what I mean? It's just anyway. And we're not going to get Mexican food like that around here either. So I end up unsatisfied. But yeah, you have a golf channel, you have a tennis channel. There's even a network streaming channel called the Olympic Channel where they show all the crappy Olympic sports nobody watches except during the Olympics. I mean, you're telling me that you couldn't have a Premier League channel that's basic cable, basic streaming, no paywalls, right? Maybe, you have whatever streaming services you have, but no extra paywalls, in other words. 10 o'clock Saturday morning.
Absolutely. If the Premier League was smart, they would do it themselves.
I think it'd be yes, if they were smart.
No, it would be brilliant. But I think the one thing in this country, and I think the reason why it hasn't happened yet, is because everything except for maybe NASCAR in this country competes with football. And the perfect example for that is Liverpool and Manchester City this past weekend started the same time that college football started. And it was on Peacock. That is always an NBC Sports game. Always.
I'll tell you what, though, Sully. It's interesting that you mentioned that because I know, and I haven't looked at the ratings in recent years. If you go back like 10 years when, actually, it couldn't be that long ago. When NBC first got the contract for the Premier League, what's that, 5 or 6 years ago, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
There were big matches like Liverpool, Manchester United that would actually outdraw the noon college football games. They would outdraw like Iowa versus Illinois or those Big Ten noon games that are usually the Premier League games would actually draw a bigger audience. And the other thing is, it does. Every football crushes everything, right? American football, the NFL, and college football, they crush everything else, especially the NFL. But they're done in January, early February.
Mm-hmm.
They're done, and then you get like 3 months of crap.
Yeah,
March Madness and all that, but that's like a 2-week thing. I mean, you get
that's the time to shine right there. And it's funny you say that too because NHL is the same way. They are scared to put their early season games on Saturdays and Sundays. So that you like the last 3 months of the game, the last 3 months of the sport, like you said, starting from like January to when the playoffs start in April, there's like, you might have 3-4 off days in a month. Well, more than that, but it's a lot less than what it is earlier on because you always, have a weekend off. But once football is over with, then they jam pack everything into the latter part of the season. But no, you're right. I mean, that's when the Premier League will shine right there. Sundays when people don't have nothing else to do.
It starts in the middle of August, okay, when NFL is doing preseason and college football hasn't started yet. It starts early to mid-August. So you got a month of run up there. And even if it gets crushed from September through January, who cares? I mean, NFL dwindles down in January to the playoffs. There's only a few games. It's done by early February. College football is done around the same time. Then you have almost all February, March, April, and half of May. There's like nothing particular March Madness, which again is or like the Masters, like over one weekend. There's nothing particularly compelling on the American sports calendar at that time. It's regular NBA and NHL, which is, it's not great.
Well, and even then, with as much stuff as there is now to stream off of, you put a good little streaming app up there for your brand, and I could have the Broncos on and watch West Ham at the same time, and it's not even a thing.
Absolutely. You can watch one on your phone. You can watch one on your TV. You can watch one on your tablet. You can have 10 things going on if you want to. You know what I mean? I know we've all done that. We've watched a sport here and a sport there. And, every day I sit with 3 screens in front of me at work. I have 2 monitors and the laptop screen. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you could put a West Ham game on and I'm sitting here typing stuff for work and West Ham's playing on the screen. I mean, you can do anything you want. So
living right there.
That's what I'm talking about. So I'm just saying, like, I think there's a massive opportunity for the Premier League. I think John's right. I think you're right. It's going to be about who gets a TV contract and how somebody handles it. If the Premier League were smart, you're right. The Premier League would come in and say, you know what? I don't know, $50 whole season. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I would do that.
I mean, that's what they used to do. I mean, that's the NBC Sports Gold. That's what it was, $50, and you could watch every game in the year.
You can watch every game. which was better.
Yeah, but I mean, if they were to do it on TV to where it wasn't behind a paywall, you just get it added to a TV subscription, and there you go.
Right. If that's even better, if it's just streaming on, Fox Sports or streaming on, So as you said, it's either for people who have cable, it's basic cable. For people who have something like, the Fire Stick or Roku or whatever, it's a free app. You know what I mean? Free app.
Yeah. Well, and what you would do for that too is you take your product off of like the Fox soccer apps, you take it off of anything else and just make it to where, channel 231, the Premier League channel, and that's the only place where you can go to watch highlights. I mean, I know transfer deadline day would be big here. I know it would be.
It would be. Listen, I think they could do it off of advertising revenue and sponsorships. I think they could do it without charging people extra, Sally, just as you were saying.
Yeah.
Nope. It's an app on your phone. It's an app.
Yeah, put it as part of your sports package. Problem solved.
Everything's subscription based now too. If you had a worldwide audience and you charge them $5 a month,
so Peacock does
so much more than they would on selling TV packages at Sky and to NBC and everybody else. I mean, it's the amount of money is there, and they're already doing half the work. I mean, we get the Premier League production stuff that they put up on NBC. They're shopping that out to all the networks already that they're filling around the world. They're doing half the work. They've already got hours and hours and hours of content that they're putting out. They just need a little bit more, do their own studios, set up their own digital center, whatever it would take to run all that, and just do it.
Yeah, you could even hire the people on NBC to do it too, because people know them. They already have events going on throughout the world. People tune in on the weekends and watch them. I mean, I'll always watch Premier League mornings, even if West Ham isn't playing, just because it's quality TV.
Give it a generation.
Tim Howard has come a long way, hasn't he? In his
He has done the same thing, but it was for Bleacher Report Live, and you would only be able to see Bleacher Report Live on TNT during Europa League, and he would do it there. But yeah, he's pretty good.
I didn't like him at the start of the season, but some of his, well, probably because I'm a West Ham supporter, but some of his insight into how David Moyes is behind the scenes, stuff like that, I think has been pretty good to listen to.
Yeah.
It's no, I think he's been good too. I've always liked Taylor Twellman though, one because he was a New England guy, and I think he's a good commentator when I have to watch American commentators. But yeah, I think give it 10 or 15. I know it's a long game. Okay, it's a long view. You put the Premier League on a free app, a free basic cable network, a free streaming app, and I'm telling you, within a generation, it overtakes baseball. It overtakes baseball. Baseball is, look at the demographics of who watches baseball. It is white men in their 50s. I mean, the audience. I'm not saying the sport will go away, okay? The sport will always, but baseball as a major American sport is dying. It's because the audience is dying. And kids, I promise you, teenagers, kids who will be in that sweet 25 to 54 demographic within 10 or 15 years, they're not watching baseball. Absolutely not. They won't. It's too slow. It's too boring. The games are too long. They don't care. They don't watch. I'm telling you, they are much more likely to watch soccer, vastly more likely to watch it. They know more. I guarantee you they know more players who play for Manchester United or Arsenal than they do for the Minnesota Twins.
No, baseball's dying a slow death. I mean, it needs to do what 2020 cricket did for cricket.
Yeah. You got to do something where the games aren't 4.5 hours. I mean, we just had the least watched World Series ever.
Well, yeah, man, because people can't go there. Baseball is a sport that you need people to attend, because I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll watch, Rockies games on TV, but at the same time, it's almost always like for the background, like if I'm doing homework, it's on and stuff like that.
Do you ever watch it, or is it just background noise though? Like
no, I'll watch it. Yeah, I'll watch it. Like depending. I will watch it, yes, but I will say with the 162 games, I'm not actively watching every game, but I'll have it on.
Yeah, 8,000 people down the Phillies on a Tuesday night at 6 o'clock or 3 p.m. I never understood that about baseball. There's like a 3 p.m. game on a Tuesday. Like who's going? Who's going? I'm gonna be at work.
Basically, alcoholics or unemployed. Sully, you're a sports guy though. You're a big sport.
Yeah.
the last time I looked at the demographics, and it's been a while, I used to subscribe to Sports Media Journal, something like that. I haven't gotten it in a long time, but I had a friend who subscribed to it, and he gave me access to his subscription. I mean, the demographics for baseball should scare anybody who's in the baseball business, because it really is far and away the oldest audience. It's far and away the least diverse audience. It's like the thing that you want to be the least right now in terms of demographics. It's old white dudes who watch baseball. And that's,
I mean, you do have a lot of, I don't know about the demographic part so much. And just because I think it's such an international sport that you have a lot of different kinds of people watching it. But at the same time,
America, it's big in Latin America. If you go to Lawrence, if you go to Lawrence, if you go to Lawrence, about 20 minutes from here, huge baseball town, and they're Yankees fans because they like Mariano Rivera when he was there. So
I mean that, and same thing for Asians. Like when I lived in Korea, their sports show, they would always show the highlights of every Korean player in the MLB, because baseball in Asia, Western Asia, is just as big as football is in Europe. I agree, but I think at the same time, baseball has its place because it's on when nothing else is, and it's fun to go to in person.
Oh yeah, it's never going to cease to exist. I'm just saying. Think you could flip. I think the Premier League could overtake hockey, which is a regional sport, which is mostly flopped in the Sun Belt. In California, but a place like Arizona, it's just not going to make it. Didn't make it in Atlanta twice. You could overtake hockey, and it could overtake baseball. It's not going to touch basketball or the NFL, and it's okay. It doesn't have to. But hey, Ken, it was nice to see you. It's good to see you. We're going to go before too long, but yeah, it was good to see you, Ken. It was really. We'll talk soon. I'm sorry I haven't been in touch, but anyway, can't go anywhere much anyway. But I think you could overtake hockey. You could overtake baseball within a generation. I know that sounds like a long time, but
no, it's not. It's 20 years.
It's not shift quickly. Do you know what I mean?
And baseball and hockey already are shooting themselves in the foot because they don't market their sport good at all.
Well, baseball, I mean, Sully, let's be honest. Baseball gave up on anybody who's not like white and over 40 a long time ago. The way I feel. Okay, it's big among people in Latin America, and it's big among like certain demographics, like Dominicans, because they have a lot of players in the game, and that's cool. But baseball does not care about younger fans. Baseball doesn't care about diverse fans. Baseball is just all about basically the St. Louis Cardinals.
With the exception of the Little League World Series, which is always fun to watch. But I agree. No, it doesn't. And baseball is so bad at marketing their sports that they had their Gold Glove ceremony, which for anybody who doesn't know was like their awards for the best 11 defensive players in each league, the same night as the election. Like that's how poor they are at marketing their brand.
I mean, I don't understand. Again, they're totally out of touch. They have no sense of reading the room. They have no sense of tone. It is the most out of touch sport I've seen. You have right now one of the best players, arguably in the history of the game, in Mike Trout, who is not in LA, but he's adjacent to LA. He's adjacent to the second media market in the United States. All right, he's basically at the margins. He could walk down the street in Boston, and I don't think anybody would recognize him. I mean, he is.
That's fair. He could walk down the city of Los Angeles, and I don't think many people would recognize him, for being honest.
And people wouldn't even look at him, But if you took somebody like I don't know, let's come up with to LeBron or Anthony Davis or any sort of big.
Jared Goff, yeah.
Jared Goff, another one. Any basketball, football player you want to talk about?
Charlie's not wrong about what he said.
Those guys are yeah. Can I tell you a little funny story? So when I graduated college in 1996, my ex-wife and I moved to Brooklyn from Fort Worth, and Kelly said to me, "Well, at least you'll get to go to Dodgers games now."
Wow.
That's Kelly. That's very sweet, but they left Brooklyn in 1958.
Yeah.
They've been Los Angeles Dodgers for our entire lifetime, and actually far more than that. But yeah, I agree with this. It's true. That's been baseball.
I think baseball and American football both have a problem. I mean, we're living in a world that we have less and less time, or at least it feels that way, right? I mean, between being accessed for work on your phone around the clock, You take, well, I was going to say you take work home with you, but right now we live at the office, or at least a good portion of us do.
Office work, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
You know, you're inundated with watch this, watch that, pop-ups on your phone, pop-ups for go watch our YouTube show, do this, do that.
Right.
In an increasingly, distracted world, you've got a sport that lasts for 4 hours. American football is no different. American football tops 3 hours.
Problem. You're totally right. NFL
got a concussion problem, which is going to cut off a good portion of the next generation of players. I mean, 2 hours for our football is probably a good sweet spot. Hockey's probably around about the same.
Yeah, about 2.5.
Basketball about the same for showtime. That's probably about the sweet spot. That's around about as much of people's attention, I think, as you can probably expect these days.
I think you're absolutely right. I've said for a long time that 30 years from now, 40 years from now, I know it's a long time, but 30 years from now, when hopefully I'm still alive, when I have my house paid off, hopefully, the NFL won't be the biggest sport in America anymore. I don't know what will be. It might be the NBA. It might be something else. Might be, who knows? Maybe it'll be the Premier League. Maybe the Premier League will have a bunch of clubs playing in, St. Louis and Houston, and who knows? But the NFL, you're right. 4-hour games, the concussion issue, the player safety issue, people are starting to actually pay attention to it. People are going to stop playing the game. That's the first thing. They're going to stop playing the game. And secondly, I guarantee you, my kids won't sit through anything for 4 hours. Nothing at all. And I think you're getting a generation that watches things for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes on YouTube, or 2 hours and 15 minutes if you watch our show, or watches 20-minute video of Beck Bro Jack playing Minecraft. Right? That's what they watch. They don't watch anything. That's outrageous.
I would say, just to kind of further that point, that basketball probably would be the next one to come up, and not just because it's a much more fast pace of a sport, but because basketball excels at what the NFL doesn't in terms of it backs their players.
Yep.
When it comes to social justice issues, it's not mum on anything.
Absolutely right.
Like the kneeling thing in the NFL is such like a divisive thing when it really shouldn't be, because people on one side are like, you need to listen to this, but people on the other side are misconstruing the whole point. That's definitely not for this show, but I'm just saying.
I get you.
I get you. Yeah, I mean, you had a shooting in Milwaukee, for the same reason as you had Kaepernick kneeling, and the league didn't play playoff games. That would never happen in the NFL. You're like, oh no, it happened. Get on the field,
absolutely right,
kind of stuff. And
NFL right over that, yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think the NBA does a good job at promoting. It's women's sports too. Because in this new version of NBA 2K, one of the big things is how like you have in FIFA is you have your player go through a career, and in 2K you could do that with the man, and now you can do it with the woman. And I don't know if you could do that in FIFA or not. You might be able to, but I mean, it's just much more up to date with everything, that I think in the times that we are now for social awareness, and I guess even a bit of PC culture, the NBA is just doing a lot better job.
That's good.
The NBA in China, though, that was an issue, wasn't it?
The NBA in China, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know too much about that, because I know like Stephon Marbury, they loved him, they loved Kobe and all that stuff, but I don't know. I don't know too much on that.
Controversy about the NBA kind of expanding into China with China's human rights record and so forth. Anything involving China is always going to court a certain level of controversy. To me, the biggest thing about basketball is, Sally, all those things you were saying, younger people, younger consumers care about the stuff you were talking about. They care about it, in a way that baseball fans don't. The baseball demographic doesn't. The younger consumer likes that stuff, loves that stuff. Plus, basketball, I mean, you see their faces. You know what they look like. They have personalities. You know who they are. In the late 80s and the early 90s, every commercial featuring an athlete featured a basketball player. I mean,
they're streaming on Twitch now playing Call of Duty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, and I'm going back 30 years here, but if you go back to the period of the NBA where you were finishing off Magic and Bird, and Jordan was just starting, he was in his ascendancy. I mean, Joe Montana won 4 Super Bowls, and he didn't really do commercials. You didn't see Joe Montana. You didn't see
Right.
You saw Larry and Magic on commercials during the Super Bowl.
McDonald's, yeah.
You saw Michael Jordan. You saw Larry Johnson. You saw guys who weren't even. You saw Penny Hardaway. I'm talking about guys who weren't even like massive stars.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, shoe deals are a big thing now too. You don't really see NFL players with brand deals that much, but you have LeBron James with the 15th version of his shoe,
right?
You know, stuff like that, and and Curry 8th edition of his shoe. Yeah, I mean, it's just different, and kind of how John was saying earlier about playing football, you know, in the alley. Same thing you could do with basketball. You know, you just got to set up some hoop somewhere.
Right.
I mean, you can find a basketball even if it's like halfway inflated.
Right.
And play it. You know, you don't even have many people to do it.
You can play basketball by yourself. I go out in my driveway, shoot all the time, shoot baskets all the time. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
I've only got the hoop about 7 feet high because some of my boys make baskets, you know, but that's about the height I can actually make them on. So, but yeah, basketball you play on your own, play one-on-one. It's one of the few sports you can play one-on-one. I think basketball is going to ascend. I think football is going to descend. And I think if the Premier League is smart, the Premier League, you know, rides that wave of younger fans, rides that wave, as John said, of shorter games, gets in with free-to-air games, you know, do it with the sponsorships, do it with the advertising. I think the Premier League could break and be huge in this country, even without
and like you said, play everybody. Don't just play the big teams. Play play the Fulham versus Sheffield games too. You know,
any American who watches our channel knows what it's like to support West Ham, right? You know the obsession that it becomes. You know when you get in. I mean, look at how many of us sit around here and talk about this once a week or twice a week on on our show. How many people watch our show? We've got 1,200, 1,500 subscribers, something like that. And we've never spent a dime on this thing, basically. You know what I mean? We don't promote it. It just sort of, and this is we're not Manchester United or Arsenal, right? We're a lesser known club. Once you get into it, you don't get out. It's Hotel California. You know what I mean? You can't leave. So people start getting into the Premier League and it's going to suck them in. And I think it's got massive potential. They just have to get away from this business of charging for every match and putting them on 12 different networks somebody could find, make it easy, make it simple. And, our sport could be, or this sport could be, number 3, number 4 in this country. The Premier League, not MLS, because MLS sucks.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, and in the time where there is no football going on, play classic matches.
Yes, get people up to speed. Play Manchester United versus Arsenal from like 1999. You know what I mean? Great. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there were classic matches between them, is what I'm saying. Show people, Thierry Henry. Show people Trevor Brooking, and show people, a
compilation of fan fights between West Ham and Millwall.
Sure, why not? People love that stuff. Americans love that stuff. Americans love green.
Crushing on Henry earlier, both of you. I was off camera at the time.
Oh yeah, hardcore man crush on Thierry Henry.
I do. A man crush on any Arsenal player ever, Dennis Bergkamp.
I know he was a punk. He was a punk.
He was the most intelligent player the Premier League's ever seen. Man was a genius.
He was a brilliant player, but he was a little prick too. He was dirty. I like Henry because I watched a long documentary once on the French, what am I trying to say? Academy that they have at I can't remember. It's Clairefontaine is the rugby and the football somewhere else, but wherever it is, the French National Academy that they established back in the late '80s that has since produced like the World Cup champions, and everything else. And there was a passage where Thierry Henry came and visited the kids, and he spoke to the kids, and he was honest, he was down to earth, he was inspirational, but he was also like, he was smart, and I just really was super impressed by the guy. So that's kind of why I've always liked him. I watched that many years ago, and I'm unfortunate that he played for Arsenal because I hate them, but good dude. You know what I mean? Good dude. So I have to say, one of the players I've always liked. But I liked him better when he was at Barcelona, for instance, or somewhere else,
And Charlie Boy's story, that's how you know he was meant to be a West Ham fan, with the heartbreak, talking about how his dad moved to New York from London in 1980 and didn't get to see the cup final.
I'll tell you, that is bad. It's nothing like this, because I'm not really even a Red Sox fan at all, but I moved I left Boston. I lived here for 5 years, and then I moved out in 2001 to France. And like 6 months after I moved, the Patriots won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then they won it again and again. And then the Red Sox won the World Series, and I missed all those parties because I was. But then I'm back in Boston with like 10 more championships, so I have nothing to complain about.
Right.
And I'm a Bruins guy anyway, primarily. So, but yeah, this is tough. Especially back then, it's like you could watch it on TV. It wasn't. I mean, you'd have to look at the newspaper to see who won.
Yeah, like the next day. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know. All right. Anyway, well, this is one of our longest shows of all time. If Kieran's still around, he's still around. I see him in there. It's time to start wrapping up. This time I mean it. Because it's almost 11:30 on the East Coast, and I'm starving. I haven't had my midnight fat-free yogurt snack. So, yeah, I do a little plain Greek fat-free yogurt. Okay, a little Splenda, some imitation vanilla, and some blueberries, and it's really quite nice.
That's why them jerseys look so good on you, Lee. There it is. There's the trick.
I'm not going to lie to you. I've taken off 2 pounds in the last 2 weeks. Okay. I'm 50 pounds lighter than I was about 2.5 years ago. So got to keep it down. You know what I mean?
Nice.
When I put my Scott Parker shirt on a couple of years ago, and like the P was sort of on one shoulder, the R was, it's like, well, this will never do. So yeah, now it fits. It's better. Anyway.
From that, you take another 2 pounds off.
I took a pound off last week, a pound off this week. I'm trying to do it little by little. Thanksgiving's coming, so I'll put a little bet on, when that comes up. And then I'll have to take it off again. So it's a constant battle. In my 40s, not to be, like massively obese, but I'm mostly winning it. I think I'm doing okay. So anyway, Darren's the first thing. I didn't even know he was here.
Sean, he says, "All right, guys, time to go to sleep. Get off."
Not this happened to me a lot. It's like we'd have a party. Dude, you didn't realize it's the party. You like wakes up in your house the next day. Like, oh, I went to a rugby. We had a rugby party in Rotterdam one time, and I got really, really drunk, and I passed out on my friend's floor. And the next day, I woke up, and I was. He had put me on. He had an L-shaped couch at his apartment. He had put me on one side of the couch, and I woke up and I saw this guy Nils, who played on the team. He was on the other part of the couch. I was like, "Oh, Nils, when did you get here?" And he was like, "I was here all last night, hanging out last night, and I slept here." And I was like, "Oh, of course you did." Like that makes total sense. So, but those days are gone. These days, big night out for me is picking up Italian at the takeout and coming home and having dinner with the boys with a Diet Dr. Pepper. So anyway,
nice.
To everybody who's been on tonight for our long, I forgot he's in Thailand. That's right. Derek's in Thailand. I forgot about that. Darren is in Thailand. Sorry. Darren's in Thailand. I forgot about that. I love this too. Newspaper articles. Dallas Morning News used to run the English scores, all 4 divisions, by the way. They ran them once a week in the agate type on the front of the sports section. When you opened up the sports section, the second page, they'd run all the international sports stuff, and they would run all the scores of all 4 divisions from England. And that's when I started looking at the clubs and being like, West Ham, like how, like where is that? Because usually it's city nickname. You know what I mean? Dallas Cowboys, Eagles, whatever. And I was like, that team's just called Arsenal. Like they don't play anywhere. They're just called Arsenal.
That's right.
It's very confusing.
West Ham is in East London. That doesn't make any sense.
Like then there was like Manchester United, Manchester City. I'm like, they're 2 different ones. What? I don't get it. Anyway, like the Giants and the Jets, sort of.
Right.
Sort of. Anyway, it has been great having everybody on tonight. John, Sally, it's been a wonderful time hanging out with you. Do you guys want to throw anything in before we go?
I don't know what's left to say.
I'm always tired on Wednesdays when I start these, and I say to myself, "Yeah, I'll go for like an hour."
I don't think we've ever done this show in less than like 90 minutes.
No, it's fun, and I love it. I love talking to you, and I this is like my social hour for the week, or social 2 hours for the week. So, anyway, John in Philadelphia, Sally in
Broomfield.
I couldn't think. I have no. The other thing is,
you just say Denver. It's all the same.
Drinking again because my memory is slipping with all this not drinking stuff. Thanks for being on, everybody in the chat room. Thanks for being on. It's good to see you all, and till next week. Come on, you Irons.